Welcome, everybody, whatever time zone or time stream you're joining us from across the Whoviverse. Have you been fluxed yet? Did you get well fluxed? Glad you made it out of the other side. Whether you've been fluxed or not, we are here for you this Thursday evening, UK time, for another Type 40 Live. This is our Doctor Who content here on the Spacebook YouTube channel. Lots of geeky talk, deep dives, reviews, previews, and analysis. He says, barely able to keep a straight face as he gets the word out. But yeah, we're back at the coalface of Doctor Who in week 1 of Doctor Who Series 13. It was all kicking off, wasn't it, on Sunday on the telly? Not that many people were watching, though, it seems. We're going to come to all of that in a second. Thank you, everybody, for being here on the Spacebook YouTube channel for more of our Doctor Who content. With me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, and my companions. They're going to be on in a couple of minutes. And you, of course, how you keeping? How was your weekend? Let's check in with some of you guys in the chat, because we are broadcasting live to YouTube, the world's largest streaming platform, and over onto Facebook, over into the Type 40 Facebook group in particular. Hello, everybody there in the Facebook group, and onto the Facebook page. Don't forget, if you are watching us over there, let StreamYard know who you are so that it can tell us and we can chat backwards and forwards. It's really, really clever like that, isn't it? Let's see who's in first. What's going on? What's going down? Ahoy, shipmates. Crimpling to Bloom, where were you last week? We missed our ahoy. Ahoy, ahoy, 2 ahoys. Give you one. Yeah, give you one back. Garbage. Hello, chat, says Garbage. Good to see you there, Garbage. And Cynix, good evening. Good evening, Cynix. It's a very sophisticated good evening there. Say hail to all in the chat. And hi all, I'm back, says Rebecca Gold. I wonder who that is. I have to see. And the Newport TARDIS is materializing just for us this evening with a big hearty hello and that wonderful, colourful scarf. Did somebody knit that for you? That's not an authentic scarf, but I do like the colour scheme. Yeah, you may as well. Yeah, why not riff on an old favourite, on a design classic, one may say. Let's go, says Raymond Williams. Let's go, Raymond. You tell him. You tell us. And Vanessa Law joins us. As always, hey, everyone. Hey to you too, Vanessa. Good to see you. And the same to Jonathan Cox. Lots of familiar faces and names, and some not so familiar. Hello to David J. Hitchcock. Hello to one and all. Hello, David. Thanks for joining us this evening, and our mate Problem being there. Hello, folks. Hey, hello, Problem being. Good to see you. That theme tune, the incredible theme from Type 40 Live, just like the theme from Type 40, is the work of the fiercely talented Problem being. So, yeah, there'll be a few more plugs for what he does a little later on. But all of the music, all of the sounds that you hear on all of our Doctor Who content comes from the mind and the keyboard of this very talented man. So thanks again to Problem being. And who fan Dan? Hi, Dan. Great name. Says, who are you? Yeah. Oh, somebody started early. The pub's open. Joining us from the snug. Okay, let's talk about snug. Let's get nice and snug with some of our companions. Let's bring on first. Yes, the original Lunatic. I think he's primed and ready to go. So, yeah, well, let's see. It's the original Lunatic and our mate from the Doctor Who Loft, JT. Hi, guys. Good to have you both back.
Hello.
Hello. Is it still Halloween or am I a week late?
You're a week late. Yeah, it's bonfire night now.
Oh, of course it is. Guy Fawkes Night. Are we
Guy
still
Fawkes
able
Night.
to call it Guy Fawkes Night, or is there some PC thing that's going to stop me calling it Guy Fawkes Night? I don't know.
There probably is. It's
Now,
probably
Person Fawkes Night, probably Person Fawkes Night. I'm guessing.
non-binary folks night. I don't know. Hello,
It's going to be a
Facebookers.
long
Nice
show,
to see
everybody.
you
It's
all.
going to be a long show. Hello, JT. How are you? You okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and Simon, we could hardly make you wait another full year when you've got another prop as cool as that, could we?
Well, you know, yeah, it hasn't gone back into storage just yet, so it'll going to be packed up into the loft this weekend.
You know, if you paint it silver, you can use it at Christmas.
What, a Christmas spider? A silver spider?
Yeah, why not? That sounds like a book by Raymond Briggs, doesn't it? The Christmas Spider. Talking about things that people may have in the loft. What I wanted to talk about first, while we remember, is that trivia question that we've kept people hanging on from the end of the last season of Type 40 Live, Simon. So remind us what the question was
Yeah, the question was by Blue Planet on the 23rd of September. Hello, Blue Planet. I do hope you're in the chat. You are in the chat. I've just spotted you there. 23rd of September. You asked a question. JT probably knows the answer to this one already. You might do, with being the merchandise icon that you are, JT. Right. The question was that Blue Planet said was, what was the first toy ever released for Doctor Who? The first ever Doctor Who toy released. Any ideas? Want to hazard a guess at that, JT?
What, you mean something that carried the logo?
Yeah. A proper official Doctor Who toy, the very first Doctor Who toy.
With the logo on it?
With the logo on it.
I reckon
our faces were much the same as yours when this question was put.
Shall I put you out of your misery?
Was it something from the 70s?
No. 60s. Goes right back to the 60s.
Okay, go on. Yep.
There it is. It's the Dalek dressing up outfit.
Right. It hasn't got the logo on there. I thought.
I see what you mean. Oh, sorry, JT. Yeah, sorry. No. I thought you meant it got the name on it. That it was officially Doc 2, but no, it hasn't got the logo.
I've never seen the box for that thing. Isn't that amazing? I've actually seen one of them in a museum, but never the box.
I would love to say that is mine, but it's not. It's if anybody is near ever near Bromyard in the Midlands, there's the Time Machine Museum there, and they've got one of these. Well, they've got the box anyway. That's where I've seen the box. But basically, Blue Planet. This was the very first one, the very first toy. I'm going to call it a toy. It was for kids, so it's a toy built by Scorpion Automotives. It was released literally this month in 1964. So what's that? 50 years ago.
58 years ago.
58, is it? I can't do my sums. Anyway, so autumn 64. And it was they were made actually in Northampton, not far from here. But there's a story because this is one of the rarest Doctor Who pieces of merchandise you will ever come across because few of them were made.
The skirt of that looks so thin, Simon, in the picture that we're looking at on screen there.
Yeah, and there were two different versions actually made of this. One was on wheels, one was on little casters, but they decided that wasn't very safe because little kids could go clearing.
In the picture on the right.
And then the later one that they did was just foot power alone. They didn't have any wheels in it. But I mean, look at that. That's pretty impressive. But as I say, there were very few of these. They made a lot of them. But just before Christmas 1964, the factory in Northampton burnt down, took all of the costumes with them and all of the parts to make the costumes. That was the end of the company. So there are so few of these around. I'll let you know now, back in the day, it cost £8 in old money, in pre-decimal money, which, working it out today, is around about £200 in today's money. So that was expensive even back then. But I mean, isn't that a beauty? I mean, they're worth thousands now, and you'd probably pay. You wouldn't get one for less than £2,000 or £3,000 easily, probably more.
I've already been looked through my loft. I haven't got one. I dare say you haven't got one around you, have you there, JT?
Sadly, I have not. The only time I've ever seen one, as I say, was in a museum.
Yeah,
and that was the box.
You need that. So I wonder if the Mega Geek or Queen Charlotte Shields has one of these tucked away anywhere.
I have one of these, though.
What do you make of this thing? What do you make of this thing, guys? This Dalek play suit from the mid '60s.
Oh, it's really cute.
I'll buy one for $1. It's very silly, doesn't it?
It's fantastic. And there's a photo as well going around of Carol Ann Ford back in the '60s wearing one of these. Where she's got the sort of skirt, the shoulder section around her while she's signing autographs.
That's got to be dangerous, though, right?
Well, it was dangerous. Probably, yeah. There was a special safety feature apparently built into them. If you fell over in one, the head dome just fell off apparently, so you wouldn't completely but I have a feeling that plastic is not flame retardant. It wouldn't pass today. No. Let's just be clear.
No way. No.
Health and safety gone mad even on Scaro. Have you ever seen any pictures of those before there, Charlotte?
No, I think I have seen one picture because I did recognise the look of it, and it must have been maybe on a show we've done before or another stream I've seen when it's like going through toys and.
So how do they get into it then? Do they pull up the skirt thing?
Yeah, lift it over
right,
the top.
gotcha.
You
All
need your
right.
mum and dad to lift it over the top and then just
Lower
leave
you in.
there for a week.
I was going to say, hopefully the parents didn't forget and just leave the child in a pool for like 5 hours.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why they weren't very popular, you know.
Well, I wonder if Alan Collins, he may have one and have been stuck in one earlier on. He said, I nearly didn't make it tonight. But it turns out he was kidnapped by a talking dog.
K9!
Wow.
Frankly,
No,
I
Alan.
don't believe that.
Alan, here's the question though. Did it have a northern accent? Because then I might know what dog you're talking about.
Oh, I get it.
I see what he's doing now. It was missed on me.
Yeah, the Darren Zones. We've forgotten already how quickly we forget. What? Thursday evening again already, says the Darren Zone. Greetings to all. The Darren Zone has been lodged in the Darren Zone for the last 7 days. It's all gone far
Where
too
do
fast
these
for
weeks
him.
go to? Where do the weeks go?
Welcome to the
Who
fam.
knows?
Sorry,
No, we're
companions.
not a fam.
Says
No,
Garbage.
no.
And
Hi, Garbage.
hail
Hello,
to
Garbage.
the panel. We've got Wendology checking in as well, saying, where's that? It's jumped. Hail, Queen Charlotte from Wendology there.
Yeah, just
And,
forget about us. Just Charlotte.
Just boys. Just boys. Only can't say
Might
that.
as well go away.
The Darren Zone adds that it still looks better than the Chibnall era Daleks. I would probably
Do you
say
know what,
that's
Darren
true.
Zone? You're right. Actually, that could be the new Dalek in the new series, maybe. Thought for you.
Babette Bombshell is watching on YouTube. Hi, Babette. And says the smell of PVC inside that outfit
Woo.
must have been intoxicating.
You'd be
Yes,
floating
it's,
6 inches off the ground while you were inside it, wouldn't you? Just from the fumes.
and also it set off a lot of fetishes later on in life. Not that she has a fetish, but Toya Wilcox used to love it. Back in what was it, 93? They did a Doctor Who documentary, and Toya, being a Doctor Who
told the
fan as she
story.
was,
Yeah.
she talked about loving the smell.
Yeah.
And that explained a lot of her
Yeah,
costumes
I
in the
remember.
80s when she was on tour.
I'm delighted. So I worked with Toya Wilcox for a week, and she's absolutely adorable. She's as lovely as you think she would be. Get her into Doctor Who. Come on, get Toya in Doctor
why
Who.
hasn't she been in Doctor Who?
No.
Well, she's probably the
Who
next
knows?
one, isn't she now?
You know what? Kids would probably
Toy
play
for
with
the
the
Doctor.
box rather than the Daleks, wouldn't they? In those days, they'd probably just play with the box. The box is so
Probably.
big, get in a box and forget about the Daleks. Yeah.
You know
That's
what?
what they used to
That's
do at
what my
Christmas.
brother did. My brother did that when he had an AT-AT walker, and my mother still talks about it 40 years later. Parents never forget. Children, parents never forget.
I can remember while we're talking of that. I've just got to tell you this. I remember having the did anybody else have the back in sort of about 82, 83, the box of Doctor Who chocolates?
Yeah, I've got it over there.
That had a
And you
K9
haven't eaten it?
and a TARDIS in, and they were absolutely awful. They were virtually inedible, but I forced myself to eat them because I've been given them as a Christmas present, and of course they're worth a fortune now, and I really didn't want to eat them because they were so horrible. Why did I eat them?
I've got them over there, but did you know, Simon, as well, that at one particular Christmas you could get Christmas tree
Yes,
decoration versions
that's
of them?
right.
Decoration.
I've got them over there, and they are awful because they are mouldy as hell, the Christmas tree ones,
Ooh.
and they're in a TARDIS tin, and I very rarely open that TARDIS tin.
There's things living in that TARDIS tin.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, they're probably
It's
mutated
probably
now.
showing up on Google Maps somewhere. There's probably some pattern that the government is detecting it via satellite. It's over your place now.
Yeah,
and
you
it's
might-
gently humming like that.
Yeah, you might have to be careful, JT. You're likely to have somebody come round and close you down, you know.
Probably.
That's it. Yes, he's burst into the Doctor Who loft and he said, "Mind my Tom Blake from 1976. You can take me in cuffs."
No, exactly. And leave your 25 quid entry fee there.
So before we forget, thanks to whose picture is this? This
They're
picture
lovely.
belongs to Mick Hall. And
Yeah,
I've never
thanks,
seen
Mick.
the box before either. It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? Really kitsch and of its time.
Of its time, very, very of its time. God, those old 60s toys were just classics, weren't they?
Yes, absolutely. And
And
the
the
further away
front-
we get from the
front
60s and
on the side,
70s, the more
look-
difficult they are.
And look at the TARDIS on the side; it's all just so completely wrong. Can you imagine them doing that today? You know, the branding police
Yeah.
allowing
No.
the police box like that. It just would never happen, would it?
No. But in those days as
Well,
well, when I see things like that, I find it charming because, of course, police boxes are still around back then on the corner.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knew what the police box was. So you could draw it any way you wanted, couldn't you? Well, now, of course, there's only one.
I wonder what they look like when they were new. though? Because that's obviously the pictures of that
They
two
looked
toy
like
Daleks.
that.
Yeah.
Did they look like that? I'm pretty sure they looked better. No?
Well,
Oh, yeah, they would-
they just look new, but they just still look.
Yeah, just brand new. Yeah, I mean
But
they're
they
only
would look
PVC,
pretty
and
much
PVC does obviously, as we now know, it does not corrode,
Wow.
but it discolors and stuff, doesn't it? Over,
Yeah.
especially now,
I
and they're,
suppose.
60 years later, nearly. Wow, they've lasted really well.
And I would imagine that back in the day when they were being manufactured, quality control wouldn't be such as it is now,
Yeah,
and packaging
yeah.
items. So things would probably get damaged before they'd even get into stores
Yeah.
a little. They would take a bit of wear and tear, and there'd be creases in various things. So now we're used to everything coming in its own sort of individually wrapped. It's all smells
Sealed.
of newness, untouched by human hands. But back then, I think it was very different.
My
Yeah,
brother
because-
got burnt on a cap gun. You remember their little cap guns
Oh,
they used
God,
to have?
really?
My
Yeah.
brother's hand got burnt for a
I
cap gun.
still remember having one of the Dalek cutter-mastics, if anybody remembers those,
Yes,
which was the
yeah.
polystyrene sheet with the Daleks printed on. And the mind boggles now, but you got this little plastic tool that had a wire between it that got boiling hot, so you could slice out these things. Well, I remember
That sounds
us kids-
awesome.
It does sound pretty awesome.
Slice the ends of your fingers off, or slice people's
That's right.
ears off with them. It's terrifying to think. And again, with that one, I literally shredded it. That is worth a fortune now, the cutter mastic. And I got my hot metal, my hot wire thing, and I just literally shredded this polystyrene. It's worth thousands now. Oh,
You see, that was
Restarted.
that was Britain back in the day. This was all British made, and it didn't do us
Yeah.
any harm,
Yeah.
did it? And
British
now they
made.
all wrap their kids in cotton wool. It's
All
ridiculous.
made on these industrial estates in the middle of nowhere. But we've really started something. There's lots of people reminiscing here in the chat on YouTube.
Lovely.
The classic 80s fanboy adds JT and his radioactive chocolate. That sounds like a kid's book, doesn't it? And Babette Bombshell says that my rarest Doctor Who piece of merchandise is a Cybermat model kit from 1982. I still have
I
the
remember
little
that.
guy.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'd love to see one of those.
Yeah, have one of those. Have one of those. I haven't got it anymore.
Who Van Dan says my
remember
memories
those.
of Who Christmas presents in the early 80s were cassettes,
Yeah.
especially theme
Yeah.
music and Tom Bacon
Yeah.
narrating the state of decay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
I've still got that
Yeah.
somewhere. I think I have too as well. It's
Yep.
got a stock photograph on
Absolutely.
the back, on the front,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I bought that as a kit, and I built it again with Babette
Babette,
Bombshell there.
well,
Yeah, glorious days, glory
Need a
days.
photo of that. Let's have a photo.
We are not in glory days now. We're going to go bring ourselves right up to date with some of the latest Doctor Who news now.
Do we have to?
And
Can we not stay in
I'm
the
afraid so. Well, this is where we excel, everybody, and this is what people come to Type 40 Live for. They come.
No, they
come for
don't.
that blend. It's what they come to Type 40 Live for, that blend of Doctor Who and common sense and that eye for what's really going on. So, not long ago, before all this sort of Doctor Who flux nonsense started, we talked about the future of
The Doctor Who what?
and
Sorry, the Doctor Who what,
and the
Dan?
BBC.
Flocks.
If you remember, around 6 weeks ago, it was confirmed that Russell T Davies would be the next showrunner of Doctor Who, and that those plucky souls at Bad Wolf were stepping into the breach to handle production of said show. And I'd say that in the time in between, in the last 4 or 5 weeks, fandom is still sort of slightly buzzing about it, and even the dropping of a whole toilet bowl full of new Jodie Whittaker episodes can't take the shine off that somehow, off the promise of future tomorrows and spectacles courtesy of Bad Wolf. But over in the newspapers this week, there was an article. Now, the Times broke this story a few days ago, and they went with a headline that Doctor Who, no, the BBC, was losing control of Doctor Who. So that's a very bold headline there from the Times. The BBC is set to lose out over Doctor Who. And the general gist of it was that this is the deal that brings Russell T Davies back to the helm of Doctor Who. So the Times was speculating could mean that the BBC misses out on up to 40 million in commercial revenue for every 10 episodes. This information comes from an unnamed source. They go on to say the sci-fi series has always been made by the BBC or BBC Studios. Yeah, tell us something we don't know. That's obviously the BBC Studios is the commercial arm, isn't it? We always have to sort of underline that. However, Davies, who first rebooted it in 2005, made his return next year contingent on the transfer of control to Bad Wolf, a production film that's based in Wales. And we speculated a little bit about this. Which came first, JT? Was it Bad Wolf Was it Russell T Davies or the other way around? In this article, they're saying that it was Russell that was brought to the table first and that he brought Bad Wolf. They don't name their sources, but this is quite a big headline to find in a newspaper like the Times, isn't it? And at the end of a time where even the tabloids have only really been talking about Doctor Who in terms of identity and ideology and things. This is a proper story that's about the show, isn't it?
This is a proper story. Yeah, this is a proper story that's about the show more than anything else. And I think it's the more newsworthy thing that we've seen in many years now. Because as you say, it's always been about ideology and all this sort of stuff. And we do see some of it going on with, oh, is the next Doctor going to be another woman? Is the next Doctor going to be a black guy? Is the next Doctor going to be, you know, green polka dot lobby or whatever, you know? So this is, it's interesting though. I mean, I was looking at this the other day when it came through. And just thinking, well, how do they know all this? I mean, it's still out in the open, isn't it? You know, we don't know the deals yet. We may never do now because we have to understand that Doctor Who has now moved on. Bad Wolf, Russell himself, BBC Studios don't need to tell us all that sort of stuff. But it is interesting to speculate about what's going on.
The article goes on to say that the sources said that Bad Wolf would be responsible for the creative direction and production, but BBC Studios would look after international sales, merchandise, and other ancillary matters. It does sort of make sense. That would be, I would have thought, the virtue of going to an independent production company, wouldn't it, Charlotte?
Yeah, and we all sort of said there must have been something like to sweeten this deal to make Russell come back, because before the announcement, he was always like, no, I'm not writing Doctor Who. I'm finished. I'm almost done. That was the impression we always got. So we all sort of said, what is it, the sort of carrot here? And according to this article, it's the control. And I think that's a very interesting thing that the BBC has got to a stage with the show, that they basically, if we are to believe this report, are almost rolling over for Russell. They're sort of saying, we don't know what to do almost. You have creative control. So I think it really does show what damage as well the current era has done, that this deal, even if this deal happened, that it has happened. And that Russell's got that much control that if the BBC basically, if he wants to cast a doctor for his first Doctor, for example, the BBC can't say, oh no, we want this type of person. Russell can now say, no, this is the actor. This is my Doctor.
He can give him, he can do this, can't he?
Yeah, basically.
Give him one of those.
Very young there. Very young.
So I think another good bit of positive news, which I'm happy about. Another good thing that has got my hopes once again, sort of.
I see. I'm not with you on that at all.
Not convinced.
I'm not, and it could be because, no disrespect, Charlotte, I've been invested in the show a lot more. To me, it's a BBC production. It's always been mooted that, you know, especially in 89 onwards, Doctor Who's going to go independent. And we always would talk about, well, how will that affect the show and what would that be and what would the BBC's role in? Because it is right. I mean, the Doctor Who does make the BBC a lot of money. And this is a very, as we said in the initial reaction show to Russell's announcement, it's a very interesting business deal that I would love to know the ins and outs of how to do it, because the BBC always said they would never let it go fully because it's valuable to them. So to do this sort of stuff, why have things? I mean, I still firmly believe that as we've discussed many times, the BBC just said, we're going to just rest it for a little while. There are still great creatives in Britain. They could have still hired somebody brand new from the talent pool there and rebooted it as a BBC Studios production on their own. They could have done it on their own. I think because Russell's had such a glory year this year, because of the smash success of It's a Sin at the beginning of the year, I think the BBC were just so desperate to get him back. They possibly may have just said yes to everything.
Well, and also I think possibly there is just desperation on their part as well to not let Doctor Who go. I mean, I've been one of the people that, like you, JT, I've been saying for a while now, the show needed resting for 1, 2, 3. For long, I really do feel the show needed a rest. And I think it would have benefited enormously from it. The BBC, obviously, really don't want to go down that route because they realise that Doctor Who is one of their top brands, and so they want to keep on churning it out. Isn't that so? I find that so ironic, actually, that when back in the mid-'80s they couldn't drop it fast enough. They wanted to get rid of it. And now they're just so desperate to not get rid of it, they'll bring in an old hand, for better or worse, and they'll literally give it away. I mean, they're literally giving, as we've said, they're giving creative control away. They're literally becoming a distributor. That's all they are. But if this article is correct.
I mean, what's it say? It says, yes, having... what's that quote again? It says, responsible for the Bad Wolf will be responsible for the creative direction of the show, while the BBC would look after international sales, merchandise, and other ancillary matters. I mean, is any of this pricking up your ears, Ian? I mean, is this sort of what you expected? Events, the whole line, the process of Doctor Who going away from the BBC and into the arms of an independent?
Well, I mean, it's like the BBC knows. Well, we all know the BBC knows it's failed. So, and they don't know anyone that can take over, as JT and everybody else is saying. They went back to Russell T, and then I reckon the reports might be true. They said, well, we want you to come back. What do you want? Creative control. You can have creative control as long as we have the merchandise. Because once Russell T sets it on the right course, and people like it, they know that merchandise is going to make them a crap load of money. They know everybody's going to go back and buy it. So it kind of makes sense, I guess. But who knows if it's true or not, you know?
And it's to be expected, Ian, isn't it? It's to be expected, Ian, that people like us on YouTube and podcasts and in Facebook groups and things like that, it's to be expected that we spend a lot of time sort of projecting and speculating about what may come.
Yeah.
But for a newspaper like the Times to join in and to make that, that's been headline news. That article has travelled and rolled along. It's quite unusual, I think.
No, it's not. They just want clicks, don't they? You know.
It's in their print edition as well. It's It's,
that makes a difference, I guess. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's interesting that the Times are waiting. I think there is an element of what Ian says there about wanting the clicks on, because nobody's buying the physical medium anymore. Let's face it. So and people like us who wouldn't, Doctor Who fans wouldn't necessarily buy the Times. So to see something come like that, you would click it and want to know more. So that does work, and they know the power of that. It's also interesting as well. This does remind me of the other deal back in the 90s with Philip. Where. Had that gone to series, I think the BBC retained certain elements of it, especially the merchandise. Because if you remember in '96, when the TV movie came along, the explosion of Seal of Rassilon branded merchandise everywhere was all BBC owned.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been based on that template.
We have,
as I said, I reckon
a lot. Yeah, something that we hear a lot, Ian, is what we've got here from Babette Bombshell. It says, so long as it doesn't become American, Doctor Who must always be British. That is its charm. This is something we hear most weeks, isn't it, when we talk about this?
As I said, I think the BBC, they realise that they have no clue how to treat Doctor Who. Give it to someone who knows how to do it, success in the first place, and we'll keep the money for merchandise. Look at what happened to George Lucas. George Lucas became insanely rich through merchandise, didn't he? So
you have to, You then have to wonder, what will they do next when Russell jumps ship, which he will eventually.
He will,
What then? Does it stay with? And I know this is all. Nobody will know this, but I'm just speculating now. Does Bad Wolf then retain it? Does a new showrunner from Bad Wolf take over? It's just a fact. Does it come back to the BBC in a house?
Exactly.
Then?
Yeah.
I think it's probably lost forever. I think the truth of it is it's probably lost to the BBC forever, and it will forever now remain an independent production company that
obviously they know that. They know what the parameters of that are. Their legal people will have been through that with the fine-tooth comb, won't they, Simon?
But we don't.
They will be aware. BBC. They'll be aware that we're talking about it out here in fanland. But as the stories rolled on, I think what they probably wouldn't have expected was somebody like the Times to pick it up. And just as Charlotte, you said exactly, the way that the Times had put it is that the BBC has been publicly seen to have rolled over in favour of Bad Wolf and said, yeah, okay, whatever. So ever since that came out, I think the BBC may have seen how it was reported, and the story has sort of volleyed backwards and forth over the last three or 4 days. Who Found Dan in the chat here says that Radio Times has been counter-spinning the article from 2 days ago with a quote from Wenger saying that Bad Wolf is working for studios. Yes, so the Radio Times picked that up, and then shortly after there's another piece as well. Digital Spy picked it up today, and they've added to it. Digital Spy have got an actual quote here. It says the BBC is pushing back. That's what they say. The BBC is pushing back on these reports that it has given up creative direction of Doctor Who to Russell T Davies and Bad Wolf. And we've got a quote here from an unnamed spokesperson from the BBC who says, we're incredibly excited about the future of Doctor Who. Well, nobody had said that they weren't. BBC Studios is ultimately responsible for delivering the show, and this production partnership is about long-term investment that will radically build on the already huge success of the show and fan base worldwide. This is the statement that they've issued in response to the Times. Now, to me, all this really says is that, yeah, everything that you read in the Times is absolutely right. It seems to endorse that to me, Charlotte. Well,
yeah, it's the term delivering. Like, that could literally just mean, yes, you put it on the telly for us. Like, that could literally just mean delivering. What they needed to come out with, if this wasn't true, was to say, no, we still have a stake or creative control or use that language. It was that language in the Times article that got all of our attention, because creative is that. It's the storylines. Like I said, it's the Doctor pick. It's, I think, more importantly, how you're going to deal with politics. If you want to have politics in your show, that's your creative control. And I think the interesting part here is the long-term investment, because I think that answers JT's question a little bit, that I do think Bad Wolf, they're not just here for Russell. I think Russell will be the big show, the big name to get people watching for that first series of series 14, and then it will he'll step back, is my feeling on it. And he'll be there as a producer, because a producer can mean anything nowadays. But
I think it's bigger than that.
Come back.
Sorry,
no, I think it might be bigger than that. I agree, Charlotte. That I think, from what we know already, we're definitely getting one episode from Russell, which is November 2023. That's when it's going to be broadcast. Nothing said about him carrying on into a first series. He might just overshadow it. And as Dan mentioned ages ago, he might bring in a new production team, which he's telling them what to. I think the bigger picture for him creatively is to create this network of shows that he was a far behind. But he did it originally. We had Doctor Who, we had Sarah Jane Adventures, we had Torchwood, and he has gone on record. We know he's gone on record in the last couple of years saying, what are the BBC doing? There should be a whole channel of Doctor Who spin-offs, the Nissa Adventures, Tegan Flies a Plane, all these wonderful things, all these different shows, and I think that's where he's going to make his money as well, to build on not just characters that we may know, but to bring fresh, brand new characters in, so they can spin off deliberately into their own things, so that they've got a whole channel network, Disney style.
He's going to be the Bob Iger of Doctor Who going forward. That's basically the business model, or the Alex Kurtzman insert whichever figure. Yeah, that's
right. What do the Spacebookers think? Let us know, Spacebookers. What do you think on that? Because I think that's where Russell's going.
That's the best comparison, I think. Kevin Feige, who brought so much success to Marvel Cinematic Universe, Simon.
Yeah, and the thing is, as I've said in the past, the BBC clearly just don't know what they've got with Doctor Who. They don't know what to do with Doctor Who. Let's not forget who it was that came up with the idea for Torchwood and for Sarah Jane Adventures, and it was Russell. It wasn't the BBC. And so, like I say, that they simply don't know what they've got. They don't know what to do with it. They certainly don't know how to make good Doctor Who. They don't know to do what JT is quite right. Russell's always talked about, which is the franchise in the way that Disney would, and you can see it with the Mandalorian, with the Clone Wars. They've milked Star Wars actually too far, and they've alienated their fan base because they've actually tried to push it too far now with Star Wars. It seems. But so there's a fine line to tread, but whatever, the BBC haven't got a clue about that, it seems to me. Russell has, and I've spoken openly, I don't think it's a good thing that Russell is coming back personally. But he knows what he's doing from that point of view, and he will certainly, I can virtually guarantee there will be a couple of new spin-off shows come around somehow once Russell is back in charge of it again.
I think there'll be a lot more than a couple, to be honest.
Yeah.
When I look at the statement, I think about what Problem Being Here is saying in the chat. Of course, they're saying that it's all about saving face. I think it's very much, when you compare this statement and the one that the Times ran with, I think that they are largely the same. And it's what they call a word salad, Ian, where somebody has taken the exact same things that were said in the Times, but decided, well, yeah, we can't let the Times be the one to say this, so we'll say this, and we'll say it sort of semi-officially. But because Piers Wenger's not come out and put his name to this, or anybody else at BBC Studios, or anywhere in the equation, it's obviously come from somewhere. But who? It all just lines up, and I'm sure this story will carry on as well, because it does seem to be capturing people's imaginations, and I think that's largely because, as bad as the current era on screen is, the British public still have that connection with Doctor Who, don't they?
They do. I just hope that when Russell takes over, and hope when the new era starts, all will be well. But as JT says, we've got to cross our fingers on that, haven't we? Because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I'm with Simon. Can I just firstly to everybody, if my microphone is crackling, I do apologise. I don't know why. Everything's fine at my end here in the loft.
Yeah,
right,
stop.
Okay. It might be because it's raining. I'm in Scotland. It's just bloody awful sometimes for internet up here. But I'm with Simon on this. On the initial reaction show we did when we dropped it, the day that it was announced that Russell was going to take over, I was sitting on the fence. But then he went and kicked off on this rant, and it was a rant, and a showbiz rant. And I listened to that in absolute horror about the misinformation he had been pumped, about the lack of information he'd had, the lack of reality in it. And that's when I start to think, oh Christ, what are we doing? What are the BBC doing? And I reckon an awful lot of people may have been the same as myself, looking at that and what he said, and it was a rant, and it was a very biased, uninformed, bitch fest, basically.
And do you know what's interesting, JT? That although when he was announced as coming back, which is about a month ago, is it now, something like that?
5-6 weeks.
The internet went into meltdown, and Doctor Who chat rooms went into meltdown.
Yeah.
But then it's been tumbleweeds. Nobody's talking about it now. It had an initial absolute burst of excitement, but it doesn't see. It certainly hasn't reinvigorated the public's interest in Doctor Who from the point we can see that
the general public. No,
we can see from the view from the figures of the news. It hasn't suddenly kick-started Doctor Who again.
Oh God, no! But that was never going to. That was never going to happen.
Maybe they were hoping.
The viewing public has completely detached itself. What's on screen now is a completely different animal to them, to Doctor Who. It's
animals,
a spin-off.
Right?
And by giving it that Doctor Who -flux, they've been able to facilitate that sort of that disconnect even more so, I think. So the public can look at the breaking news and see, oh, proper Doctor Who might be coming back, and it's almost like two separate things in their heads. What do you think, Charlotte?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the reason for that, Simon, is this, because it was a rushed announcement. It just felt like they didn't want to say Russell's coming back yet, and they got forced to say it. So I think in an ideal world, we wouldn't have known about Russell yet. They would have waited until Series 13 had
next year.
Unless somebody, was it Ian just said, and I'd never even thought about this before, unless it was done deliberately in the hope of actually reinvigorating interest in Series 13.
Again, that's possible as well. Vanessa asks here, guys, what's all the cloak and dagger stuff? Vanessa says in the chat.
We don't know, Vanessa.
Isn't this always the case, though? Simon and Ian, you've both seen firsthand. Isn't this always the case with the BBC? Unnecessarily cloak and dagger.
They're paranoid. Yeah. There is a paranoia in the BBC.
Well, the thing is, though, the truth is that BBC knows this era of Doctor Who has failed, and they're basically, trying to save face. This is what it's all about, trying to save face. But people with a brain like us, well, apart from Charlotte, of course, we all know it failed.
The thing is that I can't help thinking, you see, in all of this, and I'm only just thinking, this is only sort of the penny dropping a little bit now, is that for the great British public, okay, we know that Russell T Davies is coming back for series. Actually, I don't know when it is. Is it series 14? I actually don't know, but whatever. It's not coming back for a couple of years, whatever. The public don't really work this out. So they hear in the news, Russell T Davies is coming back. And then a couple of weeks later, Doctor Who is back on screen. Yeah. So for the great British public, as far as they're concerned, this could be Russell back. They don't know. They don't know who Chris Chibnall is. And so I can't help thinking, in that case, maybe Russell isn't such a draw because the public don't actually add the two together. But if they're not tuning in for Doctor Who, that makes me think maybe Russell really isn't the draw. They think everybody thinks he is for the public.
I think, and what I was going to say is, it didn't feel like a full announcement. I think, honestly, if you would have had Russell coming back with a Doctor announcement at the same time, then we would have had something to get our teeth into. We could have speculated on the actor, what Doctor could they be, what direction could, like, that's something to bite. And just Russell T Davies, not even telling us if he's doing a full series. It's made people go, "Oh, that's good," and then in a week afterwards, they forgot because there's not enough information.
I like your point there, Charlotte. Yeah.
We've got several people in the chat chipping in with various bits and bobs. Was the news going to leak? Asks Who Fan Dan. That's something we've been speculating about since the story broke down. Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. I am fashionably late, says Sun Raider. It's good to have you here anyway, Sun Raider. Blue Planet says the BBC are lost. Everything they touch turns to and cuts off.
Just to let you know, Blue Planet, I don't know if you know this, but there are now within the BBC, there are rumblings now happening about different things. The ideology that we've spoken about a lot, that Ian always brings up as well, quite rightly. There are rumblings now where BBC staff are actually starting to become a little bit braver and to turn around and say, we don't like this necessarily. And it's coming out a lot more now. There's a lot of internal rebellion, if you like, going on. There's a lot of investigations going on. There are more staff coming out now and openly criticizing it in the name of journalism, good old-fashioned proper journalism. So it's interesting. It's something that we will have to watch as part of this show together as well to see what's going on with the BBC, because I reckon that could actually, it's going to gather moss and it's going to roll, and it's going to be interesting to see where the BBC is going to go within the next couple of years, especially if the staff are turning around saying, no, we have to look at this now.
Who Fan Dan adds here, the key thing is it got the fans excited again and united again. Now, you would think that, wouldn't you? And I think it may have it did momentarily, but that is not enough for people. Mostly people on the other side of the aisle, certainly from myself, don't seem to view it that way. That we'll probably get into that another time. But you would think that, Who Fan Dan, but I think it may take a while there.
I think it's the mistake. They think Twitter is the world. BBC and all broadcasting companies all around the world, they think Twitter's the world, but it's not the world, right? And it's not even close to the normies, what the normies think. And I think Charlotte's right, and I think everybody's right. They put that out there, hoping that Russell T is back, hoping that everybody will just see this new series and stuff like that, and it didn't work. So,
but
I enjoy using Twitter for the most part. I do, because I measure my usage of it. So I stand up for all social media. But even I think that Twitter is a dumpster fire and a massive echo chamber for far left ideology. And I talk it up.
I mean, Ian, can I just say to Ian, I love your point there as well. But that's the whole thing. I mean, show business itself, one of the most hypocritical industries in the world, especially today, looks at Twitter and it thinks the world is on Twitter.
It's the world,
and that's it. Yeah, and show business is terrible as that, as we see it all now. And I think what show business also forget is, you called them the normies, so the regular public. I mean, the draw of Russell T Davies, for us as fans, is a sell. We recognise the name. Some of us may trust us. Some of us may be like myself now, just thinking, what the hell's going on, etc., etc. But that's the arrogance of show business there to say, is a press release about somebody who's going to produce the show.
Yeah.
It shows how desperate they are, doesn't it? Exactly.
Yeah, but you know, the public won't necessarily know who Russell T
Exactly.
Davies is. You know, they might know
Exactly.
some of his. They may know Queer as Folk. They may know It's a Sin. They may know other things.
They know vaguely. But the thing is, as Charlotte says, Charlotte's quite right. Well, they're actually interested in who's going to be playing the next Doctor. You know, Russell T Davies.
Yeah, just as Jamie Knight here says in the chat, when are we likely to know who the 14th Doctor is?
I reckon it'll be 2 years. I think it'll be
could
2023
be.
itself as part of the 60th anniversary thing. Because remember, the show is currently now, and I'm going to say it again, we've been saying it for a while, the show is currently technically out of production. It's not in production at the BBC anymore. Yes, okay, they might be doing some CGI or stuff on next year's episodes, but it's not filming, it's not there. And Russell has made it very, very clear he doesn't intend to start on it until 2023.
And not only that,
Say over and over again.
I think it'll be a while as well. And I'll probably be completely wrong. And tomorrow they'll announce the new Doctor. But I don't think so. I think it'll be a while for the simple fact that whoever the new actor is going to be playing the Doctor, they're not. I don't think they would want it announced too early because, of course, then it causes them problems with their own work because people tend to think, oh, so and so's playing the Doctor, so they're not available for casting anymore. And so I don't think an actor would particularly want it getting out too early.
Absolutely. And the other thing about it is a publicity thing. It will be the 60th anniversary. You can go with say, but we've got to remember as well that in 2023 there's only one episode. There's the TV movie equivalent. The some people like Gorton specials. So that actor may actually have a one episode deal.
I think that's one of the most exciting things about it. Whatever you think about them bringing back Russell T Davies, the fact that we have no idea what's going to happen from 2023 onwards, I find that incredibly exciting, especially coming off the back of what's been going on for the last 3 or 4 years. The idea that creativity and popularity can thrive again, and real parameters are going to be open. Real creative and production parameters are going to be more open than they probably ever have before. Not fixated on things like gender identity and all that.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope
what the show is actually about. The possibility is absolutely there, and I think that question there from Jamie leads on nicely to what I want to talk about next, because it's been a few weeks. It's been a little quiet, but we do have another candidate, everybody. So, yes, according to the newspapers this week, the Sun ran with this story. As yet, let's get the groans out of the way from Ian. So the Sun ran with this story. It's completely unsubstantiated at the moment that Wolverhampton actor Amari Douglas is in line to be the next incarnation of the Doctor. So Amari Douglas is apparently emerging as a front runner to inherit the TARDIS keys as the Doctor in Bad Wolf Productions' Doctor Who. Insiders are alleged to have told a tabloid newspaper he has struck up the kind of close working relationship with Russell T Davies that helped Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant secure this sought-after role. Although he's not a household name yet, he's proved that he's a great actor.
Is he 12?
Amari Douglas is 27 years old. He comes from Wolverhampton.
He looks quite doctorish on the right there, I have to say. I think
That's only because he's wearing a pinstripe brown suit.
I have to be honest.
With white sandals.
If it was a toss-up between him and Ollie Alexander, I certainly know who my money would be on.
Oh, God, yeah. And we have... So, yes, this man's got very few credits to his name, but you will have definitely seen... If you're a fan of Russell T Davies' work, you will have seen him earlier this year in It's a Sin, where he played the character of Bosco. And
I can't remember.
He's also got. He's been on the stage in the play Constellations, which was a play that Peter Capaldi was also in earlier this year. Peter Capaldi, Zoe Wanamaker, Russell Tovey, and Amari Douglas. There's various other people in there. So in there with some pretty big acting talent. He's also due to play a significant part in the upcoming Midas Man, which is the Brian Epstein biopic. The Beatles manager. He's playing the housekeeper, Lonnie Trimble, Epstein's housekeeper there. So a key figure in the 1960s story of the Beatles. So this is a man whose star is very much in the ascension. For me, when I watched It's a Sin earlier this year, like most of the people, I think Doctor Who fans, most of us watched that. It had a huge cultural effect. Generally, I think most geeks watched it because we're pretty loyal to Russell T Davies. And for me, Amari Douglas, forget about Ollie Alexander. For me, this was the man. This was the standout talent in that show. This is the man with the charisma. This is the person who brought so much energy. And okay, the character was a very particular character.
Yes.
But the choices that he made with it, and I know Russell, no writer has a stronger voice than Russell, do they, JT? But a lot of that, I suspect, came from Douglas. And I must admit, it didn't matter who else was on the screen. When he was on the screen, he blew everybody else away. And that's what, to me, that's the Doctor. That's charisma. That's the kind of person that can nail that part, that can inhabit that part.
I have to say, I mean, looking at him there, I would buy him as the Doctor. Vanessa says in the chat he has the eyes. He does, actually. I'll go with it. I haven't got a clue on the acting. I have to be honest, I watched It's a Sin. I hated it, I'm sorry. But and I can't remember this bloke at all. I literally have no memory of him.
He played, he was one of the main group. He was in the house with them, with Ollie's character.
I remember the posse, but...
He was out in the fleet with Stephen Fry, wasn't he, JT?
He was, yeah, and his father rejected him.
It's coming back to me. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, okay, I've got him now. Yeah, okay.
And he did a couple of standout, lovely performances in that as well. I never equated him when I was watching him to a possible Doctor. You know, when sometimes you're watching something, whether it be film or stage or a TV show, and you see that spark. I remember the last time I saw it was Eccleston in League of Gentlemen before he got Doctor Who, where he was looking down at the camera and he had a hat on. And I thought, oh my God, there's a Doctor that no one's ever going to cast.
Yeah.
How wrong it was, but you know, you see that spark. I didn't get that spark from him.
Okay.
So what do you feel about this? Did you watch It's a Sin, Charlotte? And do you remember Amari Douglas? Did he stand out for you?
No, I didn't watch it, but I'm increasingly thinking I have to, because people seem to be obsessed that the next Doctor's coming from that show.
That's only because Russell's written and was on it. Yeah.
Oh, I know, but it makes me laugh that it's like nobody seems to be able to not look at that show. It's like, I'm increasingly got a feeling it's going to be nobody from that show, because Russell's probably seen all the guesses and it isn't going to want to be that predictable, is my thought, honestly.
Well, what's going to make me laugh, Charlotte, is Russell's got another series coming out between It's a Sin and between the end of next year. So it's going to happen again with the cast that's in this upcoming drama.
Whoever's in the cast of that, any new faces, any ringers that he brings in, all the bookies, all their charts are going to be up the wall, aren't they? We have the talents of Wayne Chiang says he's just too young. He's 27, Wayne Chiang, and that's now. He'll be 29 in a couple of years' time.
He's only 1 year older than Matt was when he first was cast. So he's not the youngest, technically.
Yeah. Got a great fact here. He shares a birthday with Harry Houdini, Steve McQueen, Linda Barron, and me, says Crimpling the Balloon.
Oh, fabulous.
You learn something
That's
new
great.
every day. Yeah. We've got David J. Hitchcock says, it's in the Sun. It's got to be true. On one hand, tabloid newspapers are tabloid newspapers, but the Sun is a different animal. But the newspaper that's got the best hit rate for getting Doctor Who stories right is the Mirror, and that's also a tabloid. So I'm not going to write off anything the Sun say. In fact, I think the Sun may have been the paper that broke the Chris Eccleston story before everybody else. So.
I think it was. I think it was the Sunday morning, wasn't it? The day after, the 26th of March. That I think it was either the Sun or the Express. Can't remember, but it was definitely one of them. And of course, the Sun legendary for the Save Doctor Who and the Save K9 campaigns.
Oh, wasn't that a Daily Star that did the sticker that came with Doctor in Distress?
I think they grabbed on it as well, didn't they? I think they all went through it a little while, because suddenly papers were selling again. Listen, in the chat, can you bring up Garbage's recommendation for the Doctor, because it ties into something what I said last week off stage.
Where's this?
8:55.
Yeah, go on. Let's put that up and let's start that campaign right now.
I want to mention what Problem Being says here, which is great actor in It's a Sin, but being a good actor doesn't make a good Doctor.
Well said. Absolutely.
It's a bloody good start. I'd say it's a really good start, but I know what you're saying. What time did you say?
We all do. As
you said before, you've got to be a very, very particular actor to play the Doctor. It isn't just a regular acting role.
Well, no, absolutely, and you've got to have that understanding of the Doctor, because we've just had an actor that's just proven the point. The Doctor isn't suitable for everyone.
Yeah.
Still too young, says the talents of Wayne Chiang, and Garbage suggests James Dreyfus for the Doctor.
And nobody's mentioning the elephant in the room then about this guy.
What?
That he's black.
You can say it, Ian. We can't say it.
Well, I personally think that the Doctor should not be black. Personally, I don't think they should cast this guy as the Doctor at all. I look. Let's get back to basics. The Doctor is a guy from Oxford, as everybody knows. If you look at all the other Doctors in the classic Who, they all had a rhythm and all had a connection between them. They were all white people. They were all from Cambridge or Oxford, whatever, that's the way they sound. I thought it was a mistake I like Chris Eccleston, but his accent, oh my God, why? Do you know what I mean? That's where it all went wrong. And
You've got
if
some
the Doctor,
very fixed ideas in your head.
no,
about
it's
who
no,
the Doctor is.
well, look,
That's a bad thing. I think we probably all have in different parameters,
Yeah,
but yours are very
personally,
defined.
Yeah, personally, I don't mind if this guy becomes Doctor, but I personally believe that I think it's wrong to take a character who's conceived as a white person and then turn him into black. I know what people are going to say. Yes, he can regenerate, but he used to regenerate into a white guy all the time until this new era where they've made a Time Lord regenerate into a woman, and then to this and that, it could regenerate into a donkey. Yeah. And I think all of that is wrong. I think if we're going to start Doctor Who again, let's go back to basics, keep the format of what Doctor Who is all about, and let's just move on from there. I mean, personally, I don't think a black guy, just like a black guy shouldn't be Bond. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I think, and probably get crucified and be called a racist and all that nonsense. But that's just my thoughts.
I've always thought in my head, there's no reason why a black actor can't play the Doctor. But recently, I've heard some. I don't know if they're strong arguments, but certainly an argument very similar to yours. And that was, at least I could see where that was coming from, and I do see where you're coming from. I think it's a really subjective thing. Well, for me, masculinity. I hear talk about how the Doctor is an asexual character and a genderless character. For me, he's not. He's got an inherent masculinity, but maybe that's my subjective reading. I don't know anymore. I'm trying to extend more empathy and listen to what other people's ideas of who the character is. But I think that for me, that masculinity is absolutely fundamental. And I suppose for some, maybe the Caucasian is also fundamental. I don't know. It's just not one of mine.
There's nothing wrong with the Doctor being a white guy, right? If you want a black character to just create some characters for black people, new ones. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing with women as well. Create some new ones. Don't go and take something that hundreds, millions around the world fans love, and then turn it into something that it shouldn't be. Right? I am not a racist because I am not white, but even I believe the Doctor should be a white guy. And I'm sorry if you disagree, and I don't mean to insult anyone, but that's just the way I think. Sorry, but yeah.
I think you make a very, very good point, Ian, and I think part of the problem here is the integrity of a character. And these days, sadly, the integrity of a character is all but gone because it's up for grabs, and so what might have been established traits for a character now have to be questioned and deconstructed and pulled apart, and then the character has to be rebuilt as it should have been in the first place, as certain people see it. And I think that's a real shame because, if there is a strong white male character that has been created, why not stick with it?
Exactly.
And go off and create new, strong black characters. We're not saying we don't want black characters. We're just saying that retain the integrity of a character. And the other thing that really unfortunately casting a female has done, without any doubt, is it's undermined the brilliance of regeneration. Unfortunately, it's made the whole thing. And I'm not going to go into the Timeless Children because that's just another discussion for another day. But basically, it's a shame that it's undermined the magic of regeneration, because now what we've basically said, as you quite rightly say, Ian, a donkey could be the next Doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
So Kermit the Frog could be, as I just said 10 minutes ago. And it's a shame because it's diluted the significance of a regeneration and the magic of it. And I agree. I think that's a shame because it's now just kind of, it's anybody's gig. You might as well get the cleaning woman from down the road to do, you know what I mean?
It's all a bit of a lark. That's what they're turning it into.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not retaining what the Doctor is all about. They're not retaining it at all. Now they're pooing all over it, in my opinion. That's all they're doing, and it's wrong. I think it's wrong because, as I said, right, it's the same thing with other franchises. millions, even millions of people love Doctor Who, and you're going to. Anyway, well, I rest my case. I rest my case. I won't carry on. Yeah.
We've got
I
Doc
think
Martin
you're right,
watching in
though.
the chat. We've got
I
Doc
think-
Martin here watching in the chat. He says, I prefer the Doctor to be asexual rather than a Captain Kirk. That was part of the attraction of the show. The lead character wasn't interested in romance.
Well,
I agree, but the thing is, though, JT, there's a distinction there. But just because the character doesn't have to be asexual to still not be interested in romance, it's for other people around him in his universe that he interacts with to find him sexually attractive or just a romantic figure or exciting in whatever way. I think there are different ways that you can view that kind of masculine energy, that or even a sexual attraction. It's one thing for whatever an actor would give off in the role and how those around him would receive it. I mean, I think that, for example, Martha was undoubtedly sexually attracted to the 10th Doctor, and yet, but he was like on another plane. He was thinking on another level, and we didn't see her like that. And so, although he didn't play it in an asexual way, there was a lead character that wasn't interested in romance.
I think it would. I mean, I get what Ian's saying there, because Doctor Who has, especially in this reboot version, become painting by numbers, no pun intended, tick box, tick box, tick box exercise. And I think it's terrible that a lot of drama is now doing that. I mean, it is pure tick boxing, isn't it, to please the likes of Stonewall and all this nonsense. But I think when it comes to the Doctor, I would love it if, when it comes back, they would actually bring the Doctor back, a Doctor that we know. From the 63 to 89 original proper Doctor. The Doctor, they keep saying to these idiots with coloured hair who call themselves activists and are therefore an insult to previous generations of activists. The Doctor is an alien. He's a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. He is not human. He doesn't have human attributes. He may look human, but he's not. And the whole beauty for an actor is you are playing, as Tom would wonderfully say, you are playing a benevolent alien who finds humans, for whatever reason, fascinating, other races fascinating, and that's for an actor, that's the challenge. How do I play an alien being? So to make him asexual, I think he's got to do that, because why would a Time Lord be interested in faffing around with a female from the planet Earth or a male from the planet Earth?
It's a valid,
but also, also, and I'd just like to point out another thing. If the Doctor is black, there are certain time periods he can't go to, right, throughout history.
The show business, that's not right, is it?
I know what you're going to say, JT.
I think we'll have to leave that for another time, everybody. But fortunately for us, Jamie Knight in the chat has the answer to all of this. He's come up with looms. That's what we need. Then fix that wholeness. Chris Chibnall, I dare you.
Oh, please don't dare him anymore. Thank God he's gone.
I'm very interested in the idea of Omari Douglas playing the Doctor, not least of all because he's from just up the road from me in Wolverhampton. I know it's a thin excuse, but I do like the man. I did like him in It's a Sin. I think he's certainly a talent to watch, and potentially with another couple of years on the clock, I'd be very interested to come at this question again in 2023. But speaking of Wolverhampton, I wanted to tell you guys that I was in Wolverhampton last week. That was the fair city of Wolverhampton. And whilst I was there, in the run-up to Series 13 of Doctor Who, I don't know if you knew about this, but Doctor Who came back for a new series the other day. So in the run-up to Series 13, I thought I'd check in and see the explosion of interest, general interest, Charlotte, with geeks or with the general public. What was it like? Were the shelves lined with merchandise? Now, I wasn't silly about it. I tried to manage my expectations. So I didn't go into a WH Smith's or a supermarket. I know that times have changed. So for Mr. Chibnall, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I went into hallowed ground. I went into a sci-fi shop called Another World in Wolverhampton, which is a two-story shop that's been there for around 20 years, and to hunt down Doctor Who Flux merchandise. Because obviously, according to certain people, it's swept up the entire nation and everybody loves this version of Doctor Who. So, I walked into Another World expecting to see rainbows and things everywhere. And I looked for the Doctor Who section, and eventually I did find it. This is it.
Yeah, that's about right.
Oh, that's sad. That is
that one
sad.
bit.
So there we are. There we have it. It's a big store. This is 2 floors. quite a lot of feats worth. There's a lot of stuff in there, isn't there, Simon? So yeah, this is the Doctor Who section. It's a chain store, so this is their present Doctor Who section as it stands. If you're wondering, well, where's the Doctor Who gear? Well, it's
that's a t-shirt.
That's your lot. It's on
sale.
It's in bargain corner as well.
Is it $1.99? Oh, look at me trying to move the screen like this now, like an iPad or something. Is it $1.99?
It's down to $5.99, everybody.
There you go. Rush out.
Five's too much.
So yeah, I mean, it's cheaper than maybe some good quality t-shirts would be. So you can always take it home, get the iron out, get that logo off, and away you go. Do you
know what, Dan? Just to follow up on your story, I was in Westfield a couple of days ago, and HMV. I was so happy there was a HMV there, and I was looking through the stuff. I actually brought Moonraker and Spy Love Me when I was there, but I did see the Doctor Who section. And I think there was only the first episode, the Jodie episode, the first one. Everything else was David Tennant, Matt Smith, the classics, but nothing on Jodie.
Yeah. In fact, if you're looking for a DVD or a box set of The Key to Time, get to HMV now, because some of them still have it in.
Yeah. They've got the Tom Baker, the set, the new thing that's come out and stuff like that, but nothing on Jodie at all. And I said to the guy, is there any Jodie Doctor Who? And he had to arrest me, didn't he? No, He looked at, because he knew I was joking. He looked at me and smiled and laughed. That's what he did. So it's everybody knows it's not working. No. So even the guy at HMV. Sorry, go ahead.
A year about the lack of merchandise that's come out because of this, and what does come out is very poor. It's very childish. It's very ridiculous. And we've had this discussion. It doesn't sell. We've cited so many times. You could get the sonic screwdriver for $1.99. You could get our action figure at one point for $1.99. Nothing sells when it comes to that. We know that. But what I would say to the space bookers, as an avid merchandise, enjoy this time, because if the show does come back 2023 and then into 2024. And if it is a massively popular success, by God, we're going to break the bank with all the stuff that they will have to, because it has to be successful in order to make money for them to pay back all these wonderful things, So start saving up now in case the series is good when it comes back, because there's going to be a lot of stuff for it.
In case it's good. So. Well, if you were here last week, you watched our last live stream, you'll remember that in the run-up to the launch of Doctor Who Flux, and that very first episode, which was given
like a breakfast cereal,
the unforgettable title of the Halloween Apocalypse. So we were speculating amongst us what the ratings would look like off that first episode, because you may remember that ratings they slid off a cliff and into a great big latrine, didn't they? At the end of the Timeless Children, ratings were at a serious low. And everybody, even the BBC, in a recent statement, admitted that ratings had fallen alarmingly. So we decided between us here, and you weren't here, but the rest of us had a little bit of a punt, for bragging rights, about what we thought the rating on the old what was it called? I can't even bloody remember. What was it called? The Halloween Apocalypse. What the ratings of this may be. Now, JT, he went in with 3.9 million. Simon, he took a punt with 5.5 million. My guess was 5.3 million, but the closest was Charlotte with her 4.5 million. And we did get the overnight figure, as one would expect, overnight. So the overnight rating was released. How many people tuned in for the Halloween Apocalypse? And it was, drum roll everybody, the jaw-dropping amount of 4.43 million people tuned in overnight to see the opening episode of Series 13 of Doctor Who on the night. It's breaking records yet again, everybody, but for all the wrong reasons.
It's a huge success.
Yeah, this is the lowest again. It's an all-time low for a season opener. It's an all-time low. I think how many records has this broke? Several. I mean, it's lower than the Timeless Children, Simon.
It's the lowest season opener of New Who. It's the lowest season opener actually since Battlefield, and we all know what was going on in Battlefield. The show got cancelled then. It's also the lowest figure so far, I think, for the US. I've got the US figures here if anybody's interested in US figures, which are amassed an incredible 339,000 viewers, believe it or not, which is a drop on the Timeless Children, incredibly, which was 375,000 views. So it's already gone down from that. And most significantly, in the 18 to 40 viewing group, which, you know, the age 18 to 40, which is their most significant one, 58% drop, a 58% drop in the 18 to 40 demographic. So it's disastrous in America. It's disastrous. And let's not forget that BBC America, you know, want Doctor Who and they need Doctor Who to work. And, you know, it's not working. It's just going down and down and down. So yes, Dan, it's broken records everywhere. It's all hail and it's working, isn't it? Great.
BBC America may not be around in 2023, though, may it?
It's looking that way. I mean, that is such a meager figure for BBC America. I know some YouTube channels that get more people watching than that. Hello, Gary. Mate. I know, seriously. Yeah. That is embarrassing, considering that Doctor Who, just a few short years ago, this was one of their tentpole shows on BBC America. There was billboards all over New York City. There were premieres. Now, a fraction of that amount watch the show now. It really is ignominious.
And yet,
it's a success.
There's
the BBC
that are still saying it's a success.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're blaming it all. Oh, don't worry. I've been told today I was being a sensational. I was peddling sensationalist word magic today. I've been accused of because I presented the facts that basically
like a breakfast cereal.
I presented the facts that basically Jodie's episodes have gone down and down, and I was called sensationalist word magic. You know.
Do you know it gets me
that I can't lie, everybody. There's nothing word magic about any of this.
It's just fact. It's not sensation. It's not word magic. It's just a fact that the viewing figures have gone down.
I was looking at some of the reviews that were coming through on social media from the supporters of the Chris Chibnall Jodie Whittaker era. It's the same story, but this time round, I started to think about, well, it's interesting what they're saying now, because all they were saying was the episode looked good and the special effects were brilliant. They said nothing about acting. They said nothing about plot. They said nothing about direction. And I thought, how have we actually breeded a whole generation of youngsters, especially, that will watch this thing just to see what label people are putting themselves under, or just to watch special effects. Yeah. And I just thought that's sad. That's really sad, because nobody talked about the plot of the show and how good it was. Right? It was, oh no, that looked great. The special effects were great. And that said to me, having not seen the episode, not going to see the episode, that's what the production team went for. They went for epicness through special effects rather than substance.
Hold on, so I never saw the episode, right? But I saw a picture of them hanging upside down, Yaz and the Doctor. And did they fall into a bed or something? Is that true?
I'm afraid so, yes.
Oh, no.
A bed in the TARDIS? Was it in the TARDIS, the bed?
Better. So. It gets better. It was a double bed. So our kids had lots of fun.
That's so shit. Sorry. Oh my God, no.
Yeah, to me, this shows one core thing. And because I had a feeling it was going to dip, or you guys were saying it was going to get a bump. And in the back of my head, I was like, this is not going to bump. And I think it shows one thing. The trust has gone. Because this is your first episode. This is when you need to convince people before they've seen anything to watch. So you're purely going off trust. You're purely going off what you can sell. And they failed miserably. And I think because of all the damage of the two series before, now we are going to see in this series the repercussions properly. Because they are trying so hard. And now you're seeing that the fandom in large has just gone, do you know what? You have burnt me too much. You've damaged too much. I'm not even going to give you a chance. And that's what's telling to me, that figure.
What's the bed doing in the TARDIS?
Oh, God, don't ask.
No, just don't ask.
Who knows?
I love this.
Digby Strawberry says, it's Simon in other places. Sensationalist world magic is called coherence.
Hey, I'll buy that one. Thank you.
We'll be recording the Type 40 review of the Halloween apocalypse in a couple of days, and it'll be on the channel
luck.
for you as soon as possible. I promise. We don't want to get too behind with reviewing these episodes, but yeah, that'll be a full review of that episode, Series 13, Episode 1, with whichever of our regular voices is game enough to be there to pick their way through the whole thing with me. So look out for that on the channel soon. The audience appreciation index figure was also published for that episode, and that was another, not a record breaker, pretty close. It was just 76, which is the lowest audience appreciation index figure since Love and Monsters back in 2006. That's 15 years ago, everybody.
But it's still a success.
It's still a
BBC sales is still a success.
What are you talking about? You're peddling word magic. Ian, stop with the word magic.
Sensationalist word magic at that.
I'm bed in the TARDIS.
And while I'm talking about, before we head into the break, I wanted to tell you about this because tomorrow here on the Spacebook YouTube channel, we are delighted to bring you the next edition of the Type 40 podcast. It's this. This is our exclusive interview. Simon and myself were reduced to gibbering fanboy wrecks to pull ourselves together to interview Paul Joyce, weren't we, Simon, for the next edition of the podcast?
We were. This was an absolute thrill. As somebody who adores Warriors Gate, it was just brilliant to literally pick the mind of Paul Joyce, and we do, don't we? We pick the mind, and he's such a funny bloke as well. He was just a charming person, and it kind of blindsided us a bit because Warriors Gate, the history of Warriors Gate is so controversial, the production history. I think we were intimidated, weren't we, Dan? We sort of thought maybe he's a really, really scary bloke and he'd be terrifying and be horrible and he'll be snappy with us. And he was lovely. He was just a beautiful, beautiful human being. And we have we could still be chatting now. And very interesting, a very learned person. And it was just a pleasure to talk to him.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to spend a good couple of hours in the company of Paul Joyce through the magic of technology, hear all about his incredible career and the production, the legendary production process of getting Warriors Gate from that treatment to the screen. You can hear Paul talk about it in his own words, mostly uncut. So it's not one for children. There's some colourful language in this interview, and it's a very, very playful man talking about a time in his really long career where he was sort of reaching and being bold creatively. You cannot miss this. It's going to be in video form here on the Spacebook channel and on the podcatchers too. So wherever you get your Type 40, there'll be a version of this for both your ears, your eyes, or both. I can't wait for you all to watch or listen to it. What else have we got? Yeah, we're gonna before we get into the break. There's something I wanted to ask you about. Yeah, because it's time for the usual Type 40 T or P break. Everybody, a little bit later than usual. This is we're running slightly behind schedule. But what I wanted to ask you before we go into the ads is this: a little. I don't know. It's not a trivia question because it happened this week. So a momentous thing happened in the Doctor Who world this week. Everybody, a doctor, an actual doctor, not a pretend doctor, an actual doctor and companion were photographed together for the first time in over a decade. Everybody. Now, I want you to have a guess. All the people on the panel here are scratching their heads, and everybody watching in the chat out there, have a think about which doctor and companion that could possibly be that were photographed together this very week just gone for the first time in well over a decade. Have a think about that while you watch the adverts, but don't think too hard. You've got to watch these adverts because I think it would be a great shame to miss out on this. In fact, you could say it would be a fate worse than fatal death. See you in a couple of minutes.
Pizza Hut pan pizza. At Pizza Hut, you've got it made.
That's a nice rig, sir. That's not a rug buff. It is a Bedouin birthing blanket. Tradition has it, a powerful aid to fertility. Great! I'll get me mum one.
A Barclay card? Put it away, boff.
The Tuareg are an ancient people. They respect only hard cash and hard bargaining.
انت مجنون
شمالي دك دك.
جاي من فين انت مش فاهمك انت مجنون
Thank you. Boa.
You sound fluent, sir.
We are both fluent, boff. Sadly, in different languages. How much is the rug?
So, where did your Barclay card get you?
Well, it got me reg insured for the next 3 months.
Insurance, boff.
I think I can handle a rug.
Ah, smell those Tuareg campfires. Unmistakable. Look, shoot. Push off.
This is the Infinity Q45. Those lucky enough to have a Q get jealous about sharing it. But if you have to, just push this button. And steering wheel, driver's seat, and outside mirrors return to your pre-programmed positions. There's even a second button for another driver. After all, true luxury is a very personal thing.
Now, for a limited time, lease one of the world's most advanced automobiles with no down payment.
I love entertaining, but I hate the ghastly aftermath, even with the dishwasher. First, the dirties, like this stuck-on egg. No, don't look, it's too awful. Then the delicates. Well, you can't trust conventional powders not to harm fine china, can you? Thank heavens for new fairy. For the dishwasher, it's great at cleaning, naturally, so it even gets rid of sticky egg. And like fairy, it's kind, so I can trust it with my delicate dishes as well. Unlike conventional powders, which can fade them. See? Beautifully clean. And my delicate dishes are in safe hands. New dishwasher fairy takes care of the dirty and the delicate.
Welcome
Joanna
back to Type 40 Live, everybody. She's a class act, isn't she?
Oh, Joanna Lumley, she's the best. She really is.
Purdy, yeah.
Those adverts that Rowan
Sapphire.
Atkinson used to do, they ran for years and years and years as well. I think they led to the Johnny English movies as well, didn't they? I'd forgotten all about them.
Yeah. I must be honest, I vaguely remember that one with the carpet. I can't remember any other ones. That
I don't remember any of them, but then probably I had a life and was clubbing. Are there other? Can you still get?
I
Pizza
remember all
Hut?
of them.
Is Pizza Hut still around? Is it?
Yeah.
Now, before
Still
the
around.
adverts, I asked you guys and you which doctor and companion were photographed together this week for the very first time in over a decade. And I can see there's a couple of people in the chat who we've got all sorts of suggestions. We've got Richard E. Grant and Sophia Canedo. We've got Tom and Lala. We've got Tennant and Catherine. Might need to give JT a minute. Tennant and Catherine Tate. But several people did actually get this right. Yes, it was indeed Billy Piper and Christopher Eccleston here, photographed together, sort of, in the same frame for the first time in well over a decade. This is courtesy.
Are you
of
sure that's
Vascular
Billy Piper?
On Instagram.
Yes,
Yes,
still,
it is.
yeah,
mate.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
She looks a bit weird.
This was at the Fan Expo in Denver, Ian. So as you know, I mean, Chris Eccleston now, against all odds, is becoming somewhat of a mainstay of the convention circuit. Times are hard.
I wonder why.
Salford and tracksuit tops and trainers don't just buy themselves. You know, he needs to get out there and
Exactly.
earn a crust. And yes, so
Did
here
they not say hello? Did they not
It
say
doesn't
hello?
look like
Well,
it.
that's what I'm thinking. Do they actually
may.
talk to each other, or does he just walk behind her and
Yeah.
miss her?
That's what it is. Yeah, he's walking behind her. She's doing a signing at the time, and he's walking behind her on his way to wherever he's going next. So, for all we know, they may have said hello in some sort of green room before or after. He looks like, I think the phrase is, a man on a mission. There, Charlotte. What do you think?
Oh yeah, he looks like he's either going to on a direction to have a fight with somebody, or he's on a mission. One of the
He's going to have a fight. You're right, Charlotte. He's going for a punch up. That's what he
Did you
looks
spell
like.
my
We've seen-
point? It's that
we've
kind
seen
of
Russell
fashion.
T.
Spotted Russell.
Yeah, he's seen Russell.
yeah, he sees Russell.
He's like that, right?
But yeah, Billy does look different. I think it's the new teeth.
She looks like Wendy James from Transvision's Vamp.
No, she's getting there.
She's
She's getting
She's
there.
had a success, hasn't she? She's success with that new series. Was it on Sky? It's a huge success. What was it? The
yes,
one where
yeah.
she's being stalked or something.
I hate Susie, something like that, Charles.
That's it. Yeah, that's that. I heard that was a success.
That was a Bad Wolf show.
So my congratulations, well done, well played to Lord Thoth and Sadako24 watching in the chat, who both guessed that it was Eccleston and Piper or the Ninth Doctor, and Rose there that were sort of together or not at the Denver Expo over the weekend. Back in time again next, I think, for another flip through the diary, the Doctor Who diary with my friend Simon Horton here. Hold tight, settle into a comfy chair actually, and get a hot drink on the go. And get your fingers working. We're going back through the pages. Back.
Get ready, JC.
I miss the other music, for God's sake.
You do not, you
Bring the
liar.
other one back. Jeez.
You lot are impossible to please. Impossible to please.
Okie dokie. First and foremost, I've got to say we've got Darren Bradley to thank for providing the American figures. Forgot to say that earlier on. Darren, thank you for
Thanks,
those.
Darren.
Figures.
You're a diamond, sir.
Okay. Going back in history today, sadly, we're not going to talk about this, but dear old Dudley Simpson, we lost 4 years ago in 2017. Today, only 4 years ago, terrible. Episodes today that were screening: Abominable Snowman Part 6, Stones of Blood Part 2, something called the Suranga Conundrum, which I literally haven't got a clue what that is. So
that's a Jodie episode.
Right, okay. I literally haven't got a clue. So we're passing over all of those this time. What we are going to talk about is, incredibly, it's 55 years ago tomorrow since we watched the very first part of The Power of the Daleks, which, of course, introduced Patrick Troughton as the Doctor. I love the fact that dear old Annika Wills and Michael Craze at rehearsals apparently came in wearing T-shirts emblazoned with "Come Back, Bill Hartnell, all is forgiven." And apparently the joke really badly misfired because Patrick Troughton, who was already nervous enough, was not very impressed, and it didn't go down very well.
Blame him.
No, you can't blame him, can you? It was a nice idea. It didn't quite work in translation. But anyway, Power of the Daleks, 55 years old tomorrow, and written by David Whittaker, although actually the final scripts were in fact by Dennis Spooner from Whittaker's original scripts. Whittaker was apparently not best pleased with the rewrites that Spooner did on it. And this is also actually the very, very first Dalek story that was not written or co-written by Terry Nation. And apparently he also didn't like it. He moaned because he thought that it undermined the Daleks because it made them too sweet and nice. I think he missed the point of the story, actually.
So would he have had approval? They'd have sent in the scripts beforehand, or would he have seen it go out?
They would have sent in the scripts, but let's be honest, Terry Nation was far too busy to read somebody else's script. So he probably just watched it on transmission and clearly missed the fact that the whole point was they were meant to be sweet and nice, and then they turned very, very nasty. Anyway, it's directed by Christopher Barry. It was Christopher Barry's fifth Doctor Who story. He's one of the most prolific directors that we've had on the show, going right back to the very, very first Dalek story, the Daleks in 1964. And he then did a total of 10 stories across the years. And Christopher Barry, bless him, desperately wanted to get away from Doctor Who, and they kept on dragging him back. It's also, Power of the Daleks is also notable for being the very, very first time we see a full frontal shot of a Dalek mutant. Believe it or not, mind boggles. No photograph evidence exists, but apparently we do. Sadly, only 5 minutes remain of the Power of the Daleks.
Great shame, isn't it?
Although apparently, supposedly, tantalizingly, somebody claims to have seen it in Singapore as late as 1978, because it was the last place it was known to have been sold to, and they claimed that they saw it in 1978 on
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, apparently so. And so it could still be out there, maybe, but apparently they've raided the Singapore archives and nobody can find it. So it's long since gone. But of course, it's been animated. In fact, it was the very, very first Doctor Who story to have all of its episodes animated rather than just the missing episodes.
Yeah, I watched the new version quite recently and I loved it. The revised version is so much better than the one they put out a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. That came out last year. It's the new version is cracking. And I think many people still sort of hold the Power of the Daleks up in many ways as kind of the best Dalek story because the Daleks are just so damned nasty in it. This is why I find it amazing that Terry Nation thought that the Daleks were being too nice in it. Maybe he only saw the first few episodes and sulked in a corner for the rest of them. I don't know. Has anybody else seen the animation yet, or the reconstructions?
Yes.
Did you enjoy it,
I love it
Charlotte?
because I love it because you can also see them trying so many things for the first time, because obviously it's the first regeneration. So you can see sort of Patrick being a very different Doctor in those moments. It's not the sort of usual Doctor we're used to after regeneration. And I do love the fact that the companions for half the story think like literally a crazy bloke has just appeared and the Doctor's going to come, the real Doctor, any minute almost. I just love that distrust because it's so different, like I said. So I love it.
And also because the audience
doesn't exist.
It seems ridiculous that such a pivotal episode doesn't exist, Ian. I still, obviously, this is a fact that fandom, it's been a deep wound for decades, and even now, even though I've got the animation on my shelf, I think this is how did they possibly destroy this one of all stories? This one.
Well, and the final episode of the 10th Planet as well, that obviously leads into it. It's terrible. It's so sad. And of course, what's interesting, Charlotte, is that the audience would have been thinking the same thing at that point as well, because they'd never experienced regeneration either. It wasn't even called regeneration in The Power of the Daleks. That they were trying, and of course, it was sold on it being a Dalek story. It wasn't. There was very little publicity for Patrick Troughton coming in at all. All the publicity was for the Daleks themselves, for obvious reasons. They obviously brought the Daleks in to ensure that the show would be a success, because it was a really risky move in those days. Nobody recast parts in those days. It just didn't happen. It was a remarkable thing to even try. What about you, JT? Have you watched any of the reconstructions or any of them?
No.
None of the versions at all. So it's an unknown to you, is it?
Even the telesnaps.
Oh well, sorry. The telesnaps I've seen. Obviously, I've got the audios. I prefer the audios because I am, from having seen the telesnaps, I prefer the audios because I can see it in my head more. I'm not interested as such in the animations until they come down to about $7.99. So. But it's a great story, Power of the Daleks, and I remember being very excited when the Target novel eventually came out back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But no, I love listening every now and then to the audios. That's as far as I'm prepared to go right now with it.
Yeah. I think
so. Hold on. So they've got the audio of this episode, but not the pictures.
Yeah.
We've got everything. Fortunately, audio does survive for every single episode.
But you've got to remember, Ian, that the audio only survives because a fan recorded it. It's not the BBC we've got to thank for the
Okay.
Yeah. Not the BBC we've got to thank for nothing. Basically,
Alison Stevenson asks, have the scripts survived from these lost episodes? Can they be recreated?
Yeah, the scripts are there.
They can't be recreated though, because everybody's dead.
Can't be recreated. Well, they could be recreated. I guess Alison's referring to maybe something like the Mission to the Unknown recreation. It could do that. You could. I wouldn't want to see it personally.
I wouldn't want to see it either. I mean, why would you do that? I mean, it's a pivotal story because it's Patrick Troughton's first one.
That's right.
So many. I would hate. No.
So it can be. It can be recreated. Should we? No, I don't think so. Not personally.
I think Charlotte was so disgusted she left. There you go.
Yeah, Charlotte has vanished from the panel. Hopefully she'll be back in a couple of minutes. We'll have to see. So unfortunately, we can't watch Power of the Daleks as it was originally filmed, but we can see a certain story that always leaves me feeling a little bit tatifilarious.
Does it really? Yeah, we can indeed see the story from 34 years ago that started airing.
It's not 34 years.
Lordy.
Bloody
by
hell.
Jove, indeed. By Jove, yeah. Delta and the Bannermen, 1987, episode 1 screens this week, 34 years ago. I have to say, I have literally just finished watching Delta and the Bannermen.
It's wonderful.
It's worse than I remembered. That's all I
adore this story, everybody. I do. I know no shame. And if you think I know no shame, you should see my CD collection and my playlist on Spotify. That's not having any shame. But this story, I love it,
I
particularly
found it.
episode 1 with Ken Dodd.
I found this really tough to watch. A little bit of background, written by Malcolm Cole, the only story he ever contributed to Doctor Who, thank goodness. Last week, interestingly, when we were talking about arachnids in the UK, and I told you that it was based on a pastiche of Anarchy in the UK. Well, Delta and the Bannermen, believe it or not, is also a pastiche on a band.
Echo.
Yeah, Echo and the Bunnymen. It's
Really?
a pastiche on Echo and the Bunnymen, the title.
Deliberately?
Yeah.
I
had no idea about this.
It's interesting, this one, because John Nathan Turner, the producer, apparently saw this story as a musical. Chris Clough, the director, saw it as a comedy. Malcolm Cole, who wrote it, based it on Kagameshu, which is the Japanese epic about shogun warlords, directed by the legendary director Akira Kurosawa. So you can kind of begin to see where things are beginning to go wrong. We're kind of pulling in
it was filmed on Barry Island with Ken Dodd.
So I think Malcolm
Barry
Cole
Island.
to discover that Ken Dodd had been cast in his pastiche of Kagameshu about the Japanese war.
That's when I gave up. That's when I gave up on Doctor Who.
I was giving up at this point as well. It was McCoy's third story, of course, to put it in context. First ever appearance of the question mark umbrella. First time we see the question mark umbrella. It also, as well as Dear Doddy.
In my defence, Simon. I can't stand that umbrella either. Does that let me out? Does that get me a bit of credibility back?
Not really.
Yeah, fair enough.
As well as Dear Doddy, it also infamously features Brian Hibbard, who was the lead singer of the Flying Pickets. Anybody out there who doesn't know who the Flying Pickets are, just go and YouTube.
No bother.
I love them as well.
Just don't even bother.
And you will see Brian Hibbard.
It's disgusting.
And of course, Doddy's role originally was offered to Bob Monkhouse.
Yes.
And Bob had to turn it down because he was booked in for surgery in a hospital and couldn't. And he desperately wanted to do it. Bob apparently.
Oh, I'd have loved that. I love Bob Monkhouse.
Yep.
He would have been cracking. He would have been cracking.
John tried to get him back into Doctor Who, but it just never actually happened. John was desperate to get Monkhouse into Doctor Who.
But it's also a shame. I feel sorry, to be honest, with Ken Dodd, because apparently he really struggled. He wanted direction. He wanted somebody to direct him, and nobody did because everybody was too terrified to direct you. How do you direct Ken Dodd? They kind of thought he'd know what to do, and he was really insecure. And he just wanted direction, poor bloke. It's a dreadful story to me. It has the most ridiculous ending of any story because Billy, the kid, and Delta fly off into the sunset. And
it's
quote,
wonderful. What's the matter with you?
Well, I'll tell you what's the matter with you. To quote the Ninth Doctor from Rose, that'll never work. He's gay and she's an alien. So that's why. It's disastrous.
That was the worst. That's what Just
you're tearing down. You're completely turning inside out my favourite story of season 24. Anyway,
it's one of those stories that to me it looks like the cast are having far too much fun, which isn't necessarily a good thing. It doesn't necessarily make good drama.
Look, I only have to think about Delta and the Bannermen, and I start smiling. I know it's a load of old nonsense, but it's my kind of nonsense. It really is. Jamie Knight in the chat said the Seventh Doctor was my first Doctor. I have no logical way of properly criticising this era. Fair play to you, Jamie. I'll stand up for that. And we have Babette Bombshell says, Simon, that J&T used to commission scripts for location shoots when he wanted a vacation.
He did.
That's a red flag for a showrunner. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but generally speaking, you're not wrong.
Well, he did famously spend 2 weeks in Singapore on a recce, and the camera apparently broke, so he couldn't bring back any footage.
That's what they did with the two Doctors, didn't they? With Colin.
That was the one.
They went out. Was it Spain?
Yeah,
they went out there for a holiday.
In Singapore and then in the end, Spain.
Yeah, and it made no sense in the episode. I have watched
you're right.
And it's like it's one
the
story,
worst,
and then all at once they're in Spain, and it's like that one and Delta. To be fair, the two ones where I watched them, I watched them, and then I was on a stream talking about it, and people were like, "So what did you think, Charlotte?" And I was just like, I can't say words. What have I just watched?
Well, can I just defend John here? In his defence, the reason he did things like Lanzarote and Spain was because he had this thing about and Amsterdam. We had this thing about why does the TARDIS always land in London?
You're right. Yeah, you are right. And that's, of course, actually, JT, you're
I agree
spot
with
on,
that.
because that's why they shot Delta and the Bannermen in Wales, specifically because he said, I don't want to keep on making, as you say, JT, the TARDIS shouldn't always land in London or in the home counties. And, of course, Delta and the Bannermen was the first. It was entirely shot in Wales. Apart from the TARDIS scene, which was shot for Dragonfire in the studio, everything was shot in Wales,
Oh, really?
way ahead of the 2005 series. So respect them for that.
Yeah, and I quite like the look of those things because, as a teenager, I was getting to see places I didn't think I'd ever get to.
Yeah, fair enough.
But think, that Spain place looks all right, doesn't
it? and also with Delta and the Bannermen, let's be honest, they got so lucky with the weather. It looks fabulous. It was just permanently sunshine, which is a miracle.
Look fabulous at all. It looks like EastEnders. Jeez, what were you watching?
It's an original Butlins,
It does look like footage.
Yeah.
It looks like when you watch Delta back and you see the footage of them running around the caravan site and all the rest of it. A lot of it does look. All it really needs is the time code at the bottom of the screen. It looks like footage that's been sent into You've Been Framed for 50 quid from Jeremy Beadle.
You see, Doctor Who ahead of its time back in 1987.
And I speak as a fan. What else have we got, Simon?
Well, of course, the most momentous event that we're going to talk about now, of course, is exactly 40 years since we were all enjoying, us oldies were enjoying the 5 faces of Doctor Who. 40 years. This week, they started screening An Unearthly Child, and we've spoken about this before on the show.
Fantastic.
But if you were not there, it really is impossible to convey the sheer thrill of the 5 Faces of Doctor Who season, which screened, for those that maybe are new fans that aren't even aware of this, it ran for 5 weeks. Basically, we had 5 stories, starting with the very first one, An Unearthly Child, as I say, in this week, 40 years ago, and they stripped it across every night. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, around about, I think it was 5:40, was it? Yeah. 6:05. There we go. 6:05. We got a brand new old episode to watch. And I mean, your head exploded, didn't it, JT?
It's the only reason to watch BBC Two in those days, wasn't it? That's as far as I was concerned.
I remember. Do you remember as well on the Friday? On the Friday, you would watch 5 Faces of Doctor Who, and then the Friday they'd show Harold Lloyd or Basil Rathbone, or even the rerun Buster Crabs Flash Gordon.
That's what I used to go to BBC Two for. It was for those Republic serials, and just as you say, JT. I loved all the Harold Lloyd stuff, and they've been doing that for a little while then. And they used to show Monkey in that slot too. So this was kind of my home from home, really. And so when Doctor Who turned up in this slot, and I was I was just making that transition between an avid viewer to an actual fan, and this just. After Legopolis, which turned me into a fan, I think I've spoken before, this following afterwards, this absolutely pulled me right in. I'd heard that other actors had played this part before. I'd even seen a couple of quite fuzzy pictures of them. Now I was going to see them walking and talking. I speak to a lot of Doctor Who fans, as you know, either virtually or like this or in real life. And the amount of people who were sort of around that age, between my age and your guys' age, so many of them say, we got our very first VCR just to record episodes from the 5 Faces of Doctor Who. And I didn't have a VCR then. I think we had one the following year, so just that bit too late.
And a Ferguson TriStar. I recorded a Ferguson TriStar.
I wasn't going to miss this. And it was, to say it was only 5 weeks of my life, 40 years ago now, I remember it all so clearly. I remember the trailers.
I remember.
I remember the little cards, the continuity cards in between the show, Charlotte. This is how much warmth and charm the BBC used to have in their programming. It was like a lovely little club.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's sort of crazy to think, like, obviously, when the show came back and it was at its height, it had that sort of presence, but it's sort of so crazy to think that sort of love, because it's just not been there for so long now.
I think they might have damaged it for good. I hope not, though. I hope when the new era comes back, it revives it. But the damage is it's really, really horrible, isn't it? It's like a huge crack in Doctor Who, and we don't know whether we can stick it back.
It's cultural vandalism. I mean, when I look at these title cards that we've got on screen at the moment, they're from their showings of the Three Doctors, the Crotons, and Logopolis. I only saw these on social media a couple of days ago. Had to put them up on screen. The one for the Crotons in particular, that just that shot, JT, knowing that was coming the following week. I think I first saw it at the end of the Another Child screen. What is that? Looked so exciting. Even bear in mind that I'd been watching Doctor Who, arguably more advanced Doctor Who, particularly season 18 that had just gone out, which had really brought it into the 80s, and yet that picture, like that kind of bleached out, it looked absolutely horrific. What was happening to the TARDIS? And I'd forgotten all about these until this week when I just happened to find, I think it was Ian O'Brien that was sharing them. Ian O'Brien on Twitter.
The Five Faces of Doctor Who, that one on the left, it's like listening to like a Christmas song, taking you right back to your kid. When I see that picture with the Three Doctors there, I have that feeling in me, and it takes me right back to when I was watching the Five Faces of the Doctor on BBC Two. I can't even express how I feel right now just by looking at that picture. That's how much Doctor Who means to me. Do you know what I mean?
It does make you dewy-eyed looking at these, and just the fact that it called it the Five Faces of Doctor Who. It wasn't just Doctor Who. It was the Five Faces. It gave it a degree of credibility, of integrity, of gravitas. It branded it before branding existed.
Absolutely, but that's what John was good at.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right, JT. Because let's be completely clear, we have got entirely John Nathan Turner to thank for the Five Faces of Doctor Who. It would not have happened at all if it wasn't for JT. It was his idea. Again, let's be clear, it wasn't the BBC's idea. It was JNT's idea. And he had to push for it, because the other thing that's interesting with the Five Faces season is that in those days, the BBC had a strict policy about how many old programs, old repeats they would show. We're not talking Doctor Who now, we're just talking repeated programs. They had a very strict policy. And basically, John Nathan Turner's idea for the Five Faces ate up all of the allotment, and I think a few more as well. And they had to make a special concession to say, yes, you can do this season. But he had to fight for it, didn't he, JT?
Well, he did, because John always said, and I've said this on the show before, because we did a 12 Faces of Doctor Who special. If you didn't catch it, go back and see it, because it's on the playlist.
Yeah, we did.
And John had to fight for this, because the BBC also had this very strange, very British BBC policy called Out of Doctor, which basically meant that the BBC were not keen to show a repeat of a previous Doctor in case they offended the current actor in the role, in that day, Tom, which it possibly would have done, to be quite honest. So John grabbed this ability to say, well, actually, I've got a whole year where there isn't a Doctor, because Tom's gone and Peter hasn't actually properly been seen, and he sold it. And the controller of BBC Two especially went, yeah, that works.
Yeah. And so we've just, and this is just, it's the same as the Longleat exhibition in 1983. This is kind of the Five Faces season.
A touchstone. It was a cultural touchstone for Doctor Who fans.
Fans of and again, this is what really makes the autumn so special, because these episodes for 5 weeks now, up until towards Christmas time, we got these 5 stories. Where at the perfect time when the nights are drawing in and there's fog on the streets, and it was just, you're eating crumpets for tea. It's just perfect. It's there's everything about
I cannot explain how I feel just by looking at those 3 pictures right now. It just takes me right back. Well, you'll never understand this, Charlotte. But
and neither will our foreign cousins.
Hugh Van Dan says it takes you right back there. Also, the BBC Two logos and idents were so much better.
Yeah, they were.
That's from Hugh Van Dan. Problem being, says proper Doctor Who. We've got Lord Thoth who says says his piece there. And I see this, and it's cold and dark outside, and I'm going on an adventure, said Digby Strawbridge. That's how I felt, because the nights were drawn in, hadn't they? So it was dark when this was on. I remember it being dark outside when these were shown.
Oh, they were. Oh, it was dark.
Heat, budget. And we've got a comment here from, where is it? From David J. Hitchcock. It says, Five Faces was when I saw early stories for the first time after having read summaries in Doctor Who Weekly.
Absolutely.
And of course, that was around the time as well where the weekly was also evolving. It would become a monthly.
I always put Five Faces of Doctor Who together with the monthly because I remember watching. I think it was the Crotons. And I still watch the Crotons now, I think, of the Five Faces, because that was obviously the first time I'd seen Patrick Troughton.
Yeah.
But, it was a real case of the monthly was Whitney, because they did the previews.
Yes, absolutely. But what was bizarre, JT, I don't know whether you can remember this, because I remember the monthly coming out with the previews of the 5 stories in, but I didn't twig it at first, because it came out, obviously, before the Five Faces season started, and I don't remember it making clear that these were going to be on television. So when it suddenly appeared in the Radio Times, I hadn't twigged that the stories that they were previewing in this special issue of the magazine were actually going to all be on television. I mean, your mind's just fizzes now, just thinking about it.
We have a question from Darren Bradley here in the chat who asks, what was the other 6th proposed story that was dropped? Now, I did know the answer to this,
Darren.
and I can't remember. I've got a mind.
Mask of Mandragora.
Mask of Mandragora.
I'm sure it's the Mask of Mandragora.
If these two guys both say that's what it is, then that's what it is. I was going to go with City of Death, but I think they're probably right. I think it would have been
Mandragora.
Yeah, I think John.
Why. It was an odd story to pick, and I can't remember the logic, but it was the Mask of Mandragora.
Yeah, because John wanted a Sarah Jane story.
That was it. Yeah, but still, why would you go for the Mask of Mandragora?
Because Tom was in it.
Hand of Fear?
No, it's definitely Mask. I remember.
No, I know, but why not go for the Hand of Fear? Is what I'm saying. It's still an odd story to pick.
There were reasons behind it, but I can't remember exactly what they were. Alison Stevenson said 40 years ago is a bit before my time, darling.
Rude.
Beginning to think
it's not just me, Alison. It's not just me. Then that's good.
It's all right if you don't understand. We had to wait for those episodes to come on. They you couldn't just go on your Netflix and see them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we had to wait. We had to wait for it to come on, and that was the beauty of it, wasn't it? It was the beauty of watching Doctor Who in that time.
But it was so exciting. Do you remember? It's so exciting because, of course, you watched episode 1 on Monday, and you knew tomorrow was episode 2, and then on Wednesday it was episode 3. Your mind exploded. Seriously, it was incredible.
Yeah, BBC Two had a real identity of its own back in the day. I think it was David in the chat earlier on that said it was a home for the different, and I think that was true, and it was true probably up until the mid-90s too. I think it kept that for a very, very long time, and the only real hangover you get from that now is the fact that they still let Jules Holland do what he wants now and again. Other than
BBC Two was
everything else.
Yeah. It was famous for actually introducing new shows before Sky, before those things. I mean, it introduced me to X-Files, BBC Two. It was played on BBC Two first, wasn't it? And Buffy, I think Buffy was played on there too. So, BBC Two, they weren't stupid, mate. They when they saw huge success overseas, they'd bring it on. So,
knew that was it. So there we go.
Absolute magic. Before streaming, Blu-rays, DVDs, or even VHS for the most of us, as problem being reminded.
Happy days.
Who Fan says yes. The anticipation
for us anyway
was great, Ian. It really
was. It was.
What else have we got in the diary just to round off things, Simon?
That's it. Have we got anything else? Hold on. Have I missed something?
I think we have one birthday.
Oh, we do have a birthday. Yeah, we do have a birthday.
Crew.
Is it someone we know?
Yes, it is. Neil Gorton. It will be 52. Neil Gorton will be 52 on Saturday. The great Neil Gorton, of course, who, genius behind the Russell T Davies era with regards to all of the designs of the creatures, of the monsters, so many things. You saw him every single week on Doctor Who Confidential. If people, do you remember? See, every week he would be there. With a different, funnily enough, I was watching last night. I was watching The Impossible Planet, and he was on Confidential. They're talking about the Ood and the design of the Ood. A genius guy. Why did he leave the show? Was
he was
it
on it for a very, very long time. In fact, I think until really quite recently. And I think he still works in the industry. He worked on the latest series of Red Dwarf. In fact, I think he may work on a Discovery of Witches, JT.
I think he does, and I'm sure he has his own business. That's the why he left Doctor Who.
We don't talk about it.
There's stories.
His initials begin with double C, I think it could be the case. But yeah, Neil was on the show for a very long time.
No, it's before that.
Oh, okay. He does lecture in special effects work, in prosthetics and things like that in universities, and he does attend conventions and things like that. But he was with the show well into the Stephen Moffat era and continues to work very successfully in the industry. So he really did some time in the trenches for Doctor Who, and when you see him speak on special features or on Confidential or whatever else, he always speaks with great authority, but with that same quality that Matt Irving had, where he's a very, very playful man. And
is he going to kiss that Cyberman?
Childlike. I think the lights went off very soon after that picture.
All right.
That picture was taken. Yeah, that a moment or two below.
I think what's interesting about Neil Gorton and so many people that were working on that Russell T Davies era, although I have to be honest, it's really not my favourite era of the show, but I think it's clear, and you see it in Confidential, everybody really was putting their all into the show at that point. They were all totally committed. They were clearly all working way beyond the hours that they should have been working.
They were proud.
They were proud, you're right.
They were happy.
They were happy. They were. It's interesting. If you were to do a Confidential now, I just don't feel. I know what you get. You just get regurgitated the usual pat sentences about. But there was passion when you watch those Doctor Who Confidential episodes. There was real passion. Did you used to watch those, Charlotte? Did you watch the Confidentials?
Oh yeah, I definitely watched all the Russell Confidentials because, like you said, you could see that. Everybody from behind the scenes, that's what used to always impress me. It wouldn't just be the writers you get on a Confidential. It would be the directors, the stunt people, like the effects people, like actors. It was such an impressive thing they did for that show. Because it was on BBC Three as well. It was like on like the little channel it was seen as back then. And it
after
just
the
made
episode,
you sort of,
BBC Three. Yeah,
and
the voiceovers helped as well, didn't they? From Anthony Head and Simon Pegg and people like that. It felt quite cozy, and I think TV generally. I know they put a lot of it back over onto YouTube, and it kind of lost that quality. And we stopped being able to put faces to names like Neil Gorton, which I think is a really, it's quite a shame, really, as time's gone on.
Do we have a favourite Neil Gorton design? I think my favourite Neil Gorton design would be the Beast from The Impossible Planet, which I'm watching at the moment. Because the Beast. It's just a stunning piece of work. It's just incredible.
I think there's probably. I don't know. There's so many. He worked on so many. Yeah, I think it's impossible to pick one. Really, I mean the a lot of the stuff that was done for Torchwood as well. I think that Neil Gorton was all over that. And some of the masks on that, like the Weevil, and they were so realistic, so detailed.
What was the Ood holding?
Feature film standard.
What was the Ood holding?
The washing
ball.
Ood.
That was it. The washing ball. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think they made a joke in the episode, didn't they? Yeah.
But it's a brilliant piece of design work. The only one that I really don't like is the Grask. I never thought the Grask worked. I just always thought, I'm assuming that was Neil Gorton. I don't know. The Grask always just looked like a kid's kind of, it just didn't quite work.
I still think, having seen one at the exhibition, the Jadoon looked fantastically detailed.
Yeah, you're right.
Big. They were quite big. They were quite sort of tall and bigger than I thought when I saw one in real life, and I thought there's a lot of work gone into that. So I'm going to go for the Jadoon for the creativity of it.
Do you know? I'll go with also the face of Bo, because he wasn't like a villain and he was a side character. But I actually went to the Doctor Who experience and he was there. That was an impressive thing, and that's I think that's what also now I'm thinking. That's what impressed you about the design work. It wasn't just the villains, the main villain. It would be the side characters that would have just as much love, just as much detail than like the main villain, which is always.
If you look at the latest episode, Yeah, go on.
When
Sorry.
you saw them at the experience, things like the face of Bo, because you'd at various exhibitions over the years. I've seen items from the classic show, and obviously some of them were quite old. They were looking quite tatty. But you'd go to the experience or whatever, and you'd see the face of Bo, and it would up close. It would still look really, really good. The detail in there. So sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying that if you compare that era of Doctor Who when I can't remember what episode it was with David Tennant and the cat people, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at the last episode. I've seen pictures of that of Bungle. Is it Bungle? It looks like Bungle. The teddy bear guy. It just looks awful. What happened? What happened? Did they lose money and they had to just?
That's happened.
The other brilliant thing that's just come to bloody Bungle. The other thing that comes to mind now that we're thinking about with Neil's work is the brilliance he did and the genuine interest and love, if you like, and nod to Aitchison with Davros.
Yes. Yeah, the Davros mask is superb. You're quite right.
Yeah.
Just an incredible piece of work.
I was just wondering why he had one hand up, Davros.
No,
and you could tell him that. He used to do that, didn't he? He used to go, 10,000 battleships, Doctor. And you could tell he was pedaling or something, trying to move that. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Neil Gorton, and thank you for your huge contribution. To Doctor Who.
Happy birthday, mate.
What a guy. Time to bring us back to the present for the final segment of this week's Type 40 Live, everybody. Hold tight.
Got to give us different music, mate. Just give us different music.
Different music each time. Is that what you want?
I don't know.
Oh,
that one makes me feel depressed.
I understand, Charlotte, that it's made you so sleepy. You've got to leave us.
I know. It's night time for me now.
It's night time for all of us, Charlotte.
All your contributions,
people.
I know.
It was great. It was great to catch up with you again. Hope to see you again soon.
Bye.
Ta-da.
Bye. Bye. Yeah, so we have we're well behind time here.
We're way over.
Yeah, we're way over. But
are you out there still?
They're still there. Thank you, everybody. And if you've been here this long, I have to remind you, please like the video. Lots of people watching. Less than half of you liking the video. Please like the video. It's more important than you think. Subscribe to the channel if you've been enjoying it in particular. Subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss when we go live next. And hit that little cloister bell so you get the notifications about when we're doing it and what else is coming up on the channel, including that Paul Joyce interview that drops tomorrow in video form. Don't miss that either. And share us along to the Whovians in your life too, whether they think what we're saying is wise and insightful or sacrilege and heresy. Share it anyway. Why should just you suffer? Yeah, so but before we all go to bed, it would be rude not to mention this because this very week, I hate to remind you, I didn't get to ask Charlotte, actually. I was going to get her to try and predict what she thought the rating might be, but we'll have to say that for another time because Doctor Who Flux is back for the people who are watching Series 13 of Doctor Who. We know there are very few of you, but chances are there could be a couple out there. So we're going to talk a little bit about, because this weekend, War of the Sontarans, that's the second episode of Chris Chibnall's 6-episode opus
Original.
that he's
Really
dropping
original.
onto tellies over the next 6 Sundays. Now, it's not the worst. It's
Now that's a Sontaran.
JT's been invaded. The Doctor Who loft has been invaded by Lynx. There he is.
That's what I call a Sontaran.
So, we've got War of the Sontarans coming this Sunday by Chris Chibnall, which that's the bad news. But the good news is that the Sontarans are returning to screens. And this race of classic Doctor Who monsters over the years, I don't think it's overstating their importance to say that they are the third of the three, aren't they? It's the Daleks, it's the Cybermen, and then it's the Sontarans. Yeah. They earned that place, that prestigious place in the annals of Doctor Who monsters, in the carnival of monsters. Yeah, through several appearances in the classic show, and then a couple more again in the new series of Doctor Who, and even a couple in the Sarah Jane Adventures. So these are very storied characters that have always evolved their look. You know, sometimes deliberately, sometimes accidentally, or because nobody could be bothered to check they actually looked the last time they were on screen. But of course, there was that initial debut opposite John Pertwee's Doctor of the Time Warrior, where we first met Lynx, and then brought up to date back in 2007, wasn't it? Where the 10th Doctor met them in the Sontaran stratagem there with Martha
That was a good one. Yeah, I love that one.
It was 2008. Sorry, just fantastic stuff where they were reinvented again. But they were they're an alien race that I think they're the ones though that, not like the Daleks and the Cybermen, that the average person in the street can't name them. They might recognise them, but they might not remember their names. Is that fair to say, or are they bigger than I'm giving them credit for?
Oh no, I think it's totally fair. That people just remember.
I think it's fair.
Potato head. That's what people. Those potato-headed.
Potato heads.
My brother still says, "What are those potato-headed guys?"
Oh really?
Yeah, absolutely.
When my eldest son was little, this was before the new series started. When I used to watch the classic show with him, he'd call the Sontarans. He didn't realise it was a different one every time. Tato Man. That's what I used to call it when he was like 3. Tato Man.
I remember when I was very, very young, I used to call them the Sultanas because that's what I thought they were.
It sounds like a Motown band.
And they look like sultanas. They look like giant sultanas to me. But I should make clear the Sontarans are my absolute all-time favourite Doctor Who monster. They beat the Cybermen and the Daleks for me. I adore the Sontarans.
Why is that, Simon? Why the Sontarans?
I honestly don't know. In many ways, Lynx is one of the first monsters that I actually clearly remember. So although I remember bits and pieces before that, that cliffhanger at the end of episode 1 of The Time Warrior was the first, was absolutely freaked me. And I think that was the point I actually began to, when the helmet comes off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think actually that was the point that I seriously began to fall in love with Doctor Who. So I'd watched it before then and didn't really get it but The Time Warrior, I have such clear memories of. And then, of course, the Sontaran experiment only a year later. But I don't know, Dan. I honestly can't tell you what it is about them that I love so much. I think in many ways, I find them interesting as monsters in the way that the Daleks just basically trundle around and say exterminate.
Well, the Daleks are a monoculture, aren't they? And the Cybermen are too. You know, I know we have seen Cybermen. We saw Cybermen with names in the 10th Planet, but that didn't stick. Whereas each time that we saw the Sontarans in both the classic and the new series, they always had names. They always, even though they're a clone race,
they had characters.
They weren't all of the same temperament. Yes, they were characters in their own right. Could that be partly it?
Yeah, I think that absolutely probably is it. So don't get me wrong, I love the Cybermen, I love the Sontarans. How could you not if you're a Doctor Who fan? But no, I think it's just the interest of the characters themselves that just fascinate me. I'm guessing you like them as well, JT, seeing you've got a little model of Lynx there.
Yeah, I love that model.
Beautiful. Spot the difference. I love the Sontarans, always have done. They used to scare me actually a little. When the Sontaran experiment came along, I was 4 or 5 years old. It scared the life out of me, that 2-parter, because he was horrible. I think the main attraction for the Sontarans and why people have got hold of them in the public is the fact they're so instantly recognizable as alien. And they do have emotions, unlike certain other alien. They can get angry, but when you anger a Sontaran, you are in trouble.
Yeah.
Yes, you're quite. You're right, JT. Actually, they are scary beasties, aren't they?
They're vindictive, aren't they? That's what I feel about them, Ian. They're nasty bastards.
They're the second Doctor Who monster that scared me. The first one was the little doll that came to life at the back of the car, and this one where he took the helmet off, and I was like, "Holy!" So yeah, there's two. Yeah.
Julian Maxwell. I mean, I still remember it was such a jaw-dropping moment, and again, it's one of those things that you've got to remember. We had never seen a Sontaran at that point, as a Sontaran mask. So for that helmet to come off, and it was terrifying. That thing underneath.
I thought so. Yeah.
But a couple of people in the chat, of course, are also saying here, Julian Roxon, somebody else has said, it's all about Kevin Lindsay.
Yes,
and it
absolutely.
Absolutely is. We cannot
Even
talk
with the
about
helmet on, Kevin Lindsay's incredible as Lynx, isn't he?
Yeah, we cannot talk about Sontarans without talking about Kevin Lindsay. He created the whole character, and he even created the way of talking that I'm pleased to see that they did actually recreate in this week's episode. They one of them at least talked properly. The other one didn't, but one of them did, and that frustrated me a little bit in the David Tennant episodes. That Dan Starkey simply didn't talk like a Sontaran. The other guy did.
No,
what's his name?
Christopher.
Thank you,
Ryan.
Christopher. Christopher Ryan. He talks like a Sontaran, but Kevin Lindsay never did, and it really annoyed me because Sontarans have a very precise way of talking, and it was created by Kevin Lindsay. There's that wonderful story, isn't there, that Liz Sladen used to tell about Kevin Lindsay, where the director of the Time Warrior, Alan Bromley, said that they're called Sontarans. And Kevin Lindsay said, no, they're called Sontarans. I came from there and I should know because he was a crash Australian. And that's why they're Sontarans and not Sontarans, because Kevin Lindsay actually came up with the pronunciation.
I love these publicity pictures. I love the publicity pictures for Doctor Who, especially from Classic, and you know they're fantastic. This is a fantastic one. Look at that.
Yeah, this is one of my very favourite pictures from the entirety of the classic Doctor Who.
And again, it screams Doctor Who. Yeah, it's Doctor Who. It's evocative of what everything that Doctor Who is, a companion in terror.
And it's iconic, isn't it? And there's not a rainbow in sight, and you know, and that's what it should. That's
how
what
did
Doctor
we
Who
manage?
is.
How did we get by without rainbows?
I don't know really.
Even the one you showed before, Dan, the one with David Tennant, like that's another Doctor Who.
That's a great
thing. Oh, you don't like that, JT?
No,
I like it.
I mean, the brilliant thing about that is, I mean, it looks like it was taken in the setting it was supposed to be in for the Time Warrior, because it was just beautiful, and the angle is gorgeous, the lighting is gorgeous. Those things that were staged with Tennant and Matt, I don't know, it wasn't. Not all of them were for me.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, JT? Because this is so clearly staged as well. And yet it's so beautifully composed, and it looks effortlessly staged.
Well, that's when they had 35mm, DSLR cameras, and they had to, compose the shots and stuff. That's why it looks so good. Today, just take your phone.
And also, because you've got Liz in there, and she, even though she knew what she was doing right from the word go.
Yeah.
And who was the first? What I want to know is. Simon. What I want to know is who was the first Doctor to do this? Because was it John Pertwee? Because they always do that as the Doctor. They always put their hand out. Was it John? It was John.
It was John.
Definitely.
John.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, got to be
Everybody
John.
copied it from that point on, didn't they?
In the classic years, we saw various Sontarans in the Time Warrior, the Sontaran Experiment, the Invasion of Time, and the Two Doctors, and then there was the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky. In the new series, there was numerous cameos in various things, such as the End of Time and A Good Man Goes to War. Even Face the Raven, we saw one Sontaran in the background. I do love that about New Who, that the universe is teeming with characters and with races that don't just appear in designated stories where they are the main villain, that they are sometimes in crowds or running around or just a rogue character. I do like that about New Doctor Who, but it does make it quite difficult to keep track of who's been in what. There were two episodes of the Sarah Jane Adventures as well, where the Sontarans were the big bad guys. A story called The Last Sontaran, and another one called Enemy of the Bane, which I think was in series 2 or 3. I can't quite remember. But that relationship, was it a relationship? Because it was always with different characters. But Sarah Jane with a Sontaran, even in her later years, there was just something special about that, because of course it harkened back to the fact they've made their debuts together. I mean, I love the characters. I think that because my Sontarans were the ones in the Two Doctors, and they are arguably, of the 4 classic appearances, they're the outliers. They are, for a start, they're all like 6'5" and talk like bouncers in some sort of nightclub. They carry different paraphernalia. The suits don't fit quite right, but because They got 5 fingers. You're absolutely right, JT.
Yeah.
And there's been, obviously, it's been retconned ever since that these are different batches of clones and whatever else. The way, that's up to the fan base to do that. But because Robert Holmes was writing them, the core of the characters did remain the same. And some of my favourite Sontaran moments are in the Two Doctors.
I agree
Kevin Lindsay and Lynx. I discovered that story on VHS when it first came out for like $10.99 or whatever. And I think the Time Warrior's one of my very favourite Doctor Who stories. Largely, because the Pertwee era isn't my favourite. It's largely because of Liz Sladen and Kevin Lindsay.
Yeah. They're two cracking performances. And as a classic 80s fanboy says in the chat, poor old Kevin Lindsay, who played Sontarans only twice, collapsed during filming on Dartmoor of the Sontaran experiment. Because of a heart condition. And of course, then that was his last Doctor Who appearance, and he died not long after that. It's terribly sad.
He died very young.
But I'm with you, Dan. Actually, I actually like the Two Doctors. I know Charlotte was slating it earlier. I know, fair enough. That's my guilty pleasure. I like the Two Doctors, and I like the Sontarans in them. And they are far too tall. But the characterization is good. I actually think they are well played. There are some cracking moments. That when the one Sontaran is just literally falling to pieces and just dripping. He's been blown up by the chloronic acid. It's great. There's some.
That scared me too.
It's a Bob Holmes story though. With his monsters, so he sort of knew what he wanted. I think I remember reading years ago that the Two Doctors, the Sontarans in his original draft, were even more brutal.
Right.
And of course, Eric and John went, tone that down a bit. Ironic, considering what happened in those very episodes when they were broadcast in '85.
Of course, that's
some of my favourite scenes were the ones where Stike in that is with Patrick Troughton's Doctor, and he's got him strapped down, and he's basically torturing him.
Yes,
Troughton's incredible in that.
Yes.
Clifford Grain who played Stike in that. It's really charged, that scene.
Yes,
and every time I watch it, even now, it's brutal.
It is.
And Troughton is, considering he hasn't been in the part properly for a long time, he's totally convicted. I still absolutely love that scene. I suppose the reason why they got away with it, really, with the long-term fans, not like me, who the Sontarans, that was the first time I saw them. The fact is that every classic appearance, they always looked slightly different.
Yeah.
So, it's sort of par for the course, really. I think people gave it a wave.
I mean, you got the picture there from the Invasion of Time. Again, as a child, when I would have been 10, I just remember that cliffhanger at the end of episode 4 of the Invasion of Time, when you genuinely, as a kid, thought the story was all over, and suddenly they turn around and there are this squad of what were already my favourite monsters standing there. I had a moment, I tell you, as a 10-year-old kid. I was wetting myself with excitement. It's just because again, there were no spoilers in those days. You had no hint that this was going to happen. Suddenly, the Sontarans are there, and they looked. And okay, the last 2 episodes of the Invasion of Time, sadly, it falls off a cliff. But for that cliffhanger ending of episode 4, they looked mean. They looked like they meant business. Just cracking episode ending.
Blue
Brilliant.
Planet asks, which Sontaran figure is that, JT?
It's a good.
It's Lynx.
Which one is it? What is it? What character
options? Yep. Character options. It came with his ship, and it's Lynx from the Time Warrior.
Fantastic. The outfits are just brilliant. The cost, and this is what's frustrated me. I've had a few spats actually online this week from people shouting at me. Because I don't agree that the new Sontarans have returned to the classic look. They haven't. They're completely different. They're over-designed as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they were wearing blue armour as well. What was that about?
Well, no, I'm talking about the brand new ones. I'm talking about the new ones this week. They redesigned it again.
So back in the Russell T Davies era, the Sontarans did eventually make their comeback to the show.
I hate those costumes.
And I think that. When the new series was first rolling out, though, and seducing the nation, everybody watched this show. Everybody wanted to see what the next big thing was going to be that came out of it, the next new thing. But people were also enjoying Russell T Davies' reach into the toy box, along with people like Neil Gorton, and pull out some of the old life-size figures and make them walk and talk again in the 21st century. And even though people couldn't probably name the Sontarans, the one with the head like a potato eventually did make that comeback in series 4 as now reimagined as sort of little blue men. Now I have to say, I know this is controversial. I know you feel very differently, Simon. I love this redesign. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
I like it.
I love the lines of it. I love the blueness of it.
No.
I can see it's quite radical, and I understand why some don't like it.
It's just not a Sontaran.
I like it. I
don't like the outfit at all.
No,
it's probably a really good design, but it's not a Sontaran. It's as simple as that.
I can see why you feel that way, but undoubtedly, from this story onwards, they did seduce the public. They gave them a catchphrase, which you could say was quite a cynical thing to do with the old Sontar, charted that cry. And whether that's caught on or not, I'm never quite sure.
I liked it. That
I
episode.
like
I
it
loved
too.
it.
Ian.
Yeah.
No.
And I like these characters. Christopher Ryan played a couple of different Sontarans, and
he was good.
Dan Starkey made his first appearance in this one too, Simon. And there's an actor, I'd say, since Kevin Lindsay, if there's an actor who's become synonymous with Sontarans, it probably is Dan Starkey. He's played numerous Sontaran characters over the years, most notably the character of Strax, the recurring Strax, who was part of the Paternoster gang, appearing in multiple stories alongside the other two characters in Madame Vastra and Jenny. They made up the Paternoster gang, didn't they? Dan Starkey is due to reappear in Series 13's War of the Sontarans on Sunday in a completely new character.
Oh, okay.
So
is he?
I don't know. Yeah, I did know the character's name. So yes, but he's back on board under the new makeup, doing whatever. I suppose it would have been silly not to when he's associated, and he's a diminutive actor, so they are keeping them of this size. But yeah, this is a redesign that I think, more than the Daleks and the Cybermen, this is the one that divides the generations. I think that for people who came to the new series, they love this. Most classic fans, I think, probably don't like it.
But as I say, I honestly think it's a great design. It's just not a Sontaran. You can't.
Just not quite the Sontaran.
Well, that's what frustrates me.
For me as well, it went far too far with Strax. I mean, the Sontarans are a warrior race. Why would one of them be a butler?
Ridiculous.
I mean, what was Moffat thinking? Get off the drugs. You know, it
wasn't explained.
Terrible.
I can see what he was doing. Yeah, I think that was the problem. I think that was the problem, Ian. I think it was. I like the fact that he tried to build it, because we've established that the Sontarans are characters. They are people. People like Lynx and Stike. Yeah, they have the to make one into a supporting character. I think that's perfectly sound, and even the life debt too. It was a life debt to the Doctor originally, wasn't it? I could even buy into all of that.
Yeah, when did that happen?
Where I think they let it down, Ian, was, as you said, Stephen Moffat never delivered on that. He kind of left that character hanging. And okay, it's brilliant for Big Finish. But I think for the general audience, we got to know that character and kind of wanted to know a little bit more, didn't we?
No,
we didn't. We didn't. That gang did not deserve to be in any part of Doctor Who.
Oh, no, I'm talking more about Strax in particular, though.
Well, he I just like, why? You know what I mean?
It's just me, everybody.
Why?
It's just me. Let me know in the comments section. I don't know whether I count myself as a Strax fan, but I do understand why this creation kept coming back, and I do understand why people latched onto him.
Oh,
and I
think
agree. That he was ultimately done a disservice.
I agree, Dan. I can see exactly what you're saying there. I can see why I thought it was a disastrous move. I hate the character. I hate Dan Starkey's performance.
I'm not a Paternoster Gang fan at all.
But
I'm not
the other two. You can bring them back. He stood. It was possible to bring him back as a recurring character. It's just a disastrous idea, I think. And I just don't like Dan Starkey's performance. He's just. So, are you saying on Sunday rather, he's playing a Sontaran again?
Dan Starkey's playing a Sontaran in Series 13 of Doctor Who. Yeah,
I don't care.
One of the redesigned, because the Sontarans are back in Doctor Who this Saturday, and again this Sunday. Sorry, I never get used to that. Bloody hellfire! And again, they've been redesigned.
Oh God!
Arguably,
that is awful.
It is awful.
That is awful.
And that's why, as I say, I've been
Rubbish.
having spats with people online this week where everybody's been saying they've gone back to the classic look. I'm like, no, that is nothing like Lynx. It's just nothing like Lynx.
It's closer to Lynx than the Russell T Davies era Cybermen.
Do you think? Do you
Sontaran,
honestly
surely.
think?
Yeah, I do. I think the color palette, the outfit is a lot closer with the parallel with the lions, with the with the outfit underneath. The and even the sculpt. I think the head being slightly more square at the top is much more like Lynx.
Looks like a toy.
It does look like a toy. It looks completely
like a toy.
This is one of the things that I feel about it. That I look at Lynx, and Lynx looks like a real living creature. I look at that thing now on the right, and it looks like a costume. It's an over-designed costume.
I'm not that keen on the face, I have to say. Every time I
It
see
looks
it,
like
I'm
a toy.
not that keen on the face at all.
It's horrible.
It's the same thing they did with the Cybermen. They made the Cybermen look like toys in New Who.
There's a
They're
reason for that, Dean. There's a reason for that.
Called merchandise.
They're flogging them.
I know. But I didn't mind it. Didn't mind this.
The thing with the new one as well is what's with all the armor? I mean, the Sontarans wouldn't wear that. I mean, they are warmongers. They want death because they know they're going to pop up and one's going to replace them. They long to die in battle. So why would they put so much armor on?
But they also want to win.
Victory as well.
Surely, and they want to be efficient fighters. Otherwise, they wouldn't even wear a helmet, would they? If they really didn't give a shit.
Well, I think they wear the helmet to be scary, not for protection. The whole point for me for Sontarans is that it's death in glory in death, basically, for the Sontarans. That's why, as they famously say, the probic vent is on the back because they always want to face their enemy. They don't care. So to put them in army, they're overprotecting themselves. JT's right. They were not in that as much armor in the old days because they were not scared. They were happy to go in with not all this protection all over them because they wanted to kick some serious ass. And this is it's over designed. Simple as that for me.
Horrible.
When I look at them, and we've got a closer look at the face here at the
terrible.
Oh my gosh! Now look, see the one on the right there, the blue photograph. That looks like the original designs for the Sontarans back in 2006 for 2007 rather for 2008 because it's in one of the Doctor Who books, one of the fact books where they have the original plan.
Yes, it reminds me of Vogue from Hitchhikers.
I do have that original sketch somewhere because they were. I mean, just like the Cybermen, they went through several passes they had on these designs before they brought them back. So this was by the artist Peter McKinsey, who originally redesigned the Sontarans, which again, I don't think that's that far removed, like you say, JT, from what's being offered in Series 13 on Sunday. It's squatter, the head is lower, but it's there.
Yeah,
I think there's some
similarity.
The costume is better. The armor is much better on that. I mean, that's correct armor. That's Lynx armor. That is.
Yeah.
I'm not
they're
sure
very reminiscent.
Difference.
They're very reminiscent in that angle on the picture from the left from the magazine of the shakedown Sontarans.
That's what I've said, JT. They look like shakedown Sontarans to me. That's exactly what they look like.
And the shakedown Sontarans, they were. I mean, for the people out there who don't know what shakedown is, it was an independent
Just
film.
Google shakedown Sontarans.
Made in the mid-90s, wasn't it? They got the rights to use the Sontarans. It was a film called The Return of the Sontarans, made by Dreamwatch Productions, who published Dreamwatch magazine, and they completely radically redesigned the Sontarans. The idea being that they took inspiration from the Invasion of Time Sontarans in particular. So they made them very waxy and kind of amphibian-like. I think you're right, Ian. Yeah. So I was never quite sure where they were coming from, but I think there was some sort of. I think there was a clause in the contract that they couldn't use the actual BBC.
The picture on the left looks like a newscaster.
Definitely true.
The picture on the left looks like a newscaster. I can't remember he reminds me of a newscaster in the old days.
A particularly Maurice Stewart.
You're on your own there, Ian.
So at the time, obviously we see that now because in the TV show, for example, Blake 7, the intellectual rights and the physical, the graphical rights are two different things. And in that instance, Dreamwatch, who were making that, they had the intellectual rights to the Sontarans, but they couldn't use the actual likeness. And even though I think there were subsequent fan films that our friend Keith Barnfather made, Mind Game and things like that, where they were able to use a design that was closer to the TV version. In fact, it was very close. In fact, they had to stay away from that. But I think it's all in there. I think there's still little nuggets there, little design touches that they just try to update ever so slightly. But for me, when I look at the new Sontarans, I'm somewhere, but I see what you're saying, Simon, and I even get you about the over design part. But I think when I look at this and when I see the uniforms, I think what they've done is how they've aligned the armor. It's almost as if it fastens on to the grey suit with the lions underneath.
Yeah,
Almost as if it hooks onto those, and maybe there's different kinds of armor.
Yeah, I have to say that looks quite cool. In all honesty, they actually look better with the helmets on than with the helmets off. These new Sontarans.
I never thought I'd see the day that I saw a Sontaran on a horse.
No, but I quite like that. I have to be honest. I think that's quite cool. And if nothing else, the armor there looks sort of Shogun-like. That's the second time in one show that we talked about Shoguns. Spooky, but it's kind of Shogun-like, which works for me. I have to say that looks better than the other photos that you've shown.
They've gone back, haven't they? They've gone back.
Classic.
Oh, I've just noticed as well. That one's got. They've gone down a sort of Star Trek route. That's got 3 pips on it. The other one had 2.
Yeah.
Did it? Missed that.
Yeah, and the pips look like the Sontaran spacecraft as well. So they're sort of they're circular with the cross patterning on them, which again I think is a nice little design touch. I think that what it's missing when I look at the picture of the classic ones, I think a big silver belt. I think that's what it's really missing. Yeah.
He's probably got it behind his hand.
It's just all the armor. The suits might not.
Still not enough for me to watch the show. I don't care.
No,
don't care.
They ditch the armor.
The new Sontarans are also one of 3 covers to this month's Doctor Who magazine, which is due out next week. There's 3 collectible covers for this.
The hell?
2 of them feature some new characters. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that next week. But yeah, this ties in to War of the Sontarans. Yeah, I have to say,
I don't like that one.
The more I see of that head sculpt, that just looks like a baked potato that I've left in the microwave for too long.
That face is just
not good.
Terrible. I mean,
that looks like Matt Lucas.
I don't know what that looks like. I think you're right, Dan. It looks like a baked potato gone wrong.
I don't like that. God. I don't like the design at all.
No, that was horrible. It's too sunken. Yeah. The eyes are too sunken, and the nose is
Yeah, the eyes are very, very sunken. You're right. Yeah. That's the best look I think we've had so far. But no, I thought that you'd be keen on that, Simon. That has surprised me.
Sorry, I'm really, really sorry. And I'm really not saying this just because I diss the Chibnall era. I just hate it. I just think it's awful.
I mean, generally, I've seen some designs in the Chibnall era I've absolutely loved, and some of them I think have been terrible. The production design.
But the truth of it is, with sometimes I just don't get it. Why can we not just go back to the Lynx look? I don't get it. Why can we not? Please explain to me why we can't just go back to Lynx. They can copy the sculpt. The BBC own the sculpt, as in the design for the sculpt. So we can go back to that original design sculpt. We can go back to the original costumes. Why not? Please tell me.
Did Lynx have an ass like this?
No, I don't know.
I think what they're trying to do, production designers are trying to evolve. Like you say, they've put a lot of design work into the spacecraft.
I like the ship.
No, I'm not sure about that. It looks like a lot of recycled stuff for me. I'm recognising things from when I watched Doctor Who.
No, I like the ship. Hey, JT, look though, they've got 3 fingers. You can see from the hand things on the
hand palms. Yeah.
They look like they belong. And whilst I don't like everything about the new design, I mean, for me, I think it is a lot closer to Lynx. But I mean, who knows what will happen when Russell T Davies is back? Because I can't see any of this design work, the good stuff or the not so good stuff, making it through to the next era. This could be the only time we ever see this version of the Sontarans on screen. And we may well find that you get your wish, Simon, and we end up with something a little closer to this original design. I think this is a sketch. I don't think it's the original sketch because I'm not sure it would exist. But this is it's an original design sketch by the original designer, James Aitchison. I think it was, wasn't it, who originally designed the Sontarans. So there's links in all his glory as sketched out there in pencil crayon by the original designer of another Doctor Who design classic, one of dozens, if not hundreds.
Fabulous, fabulous, beautiful.
It's got the director's name written at the top, Alan Bromley, producer Barry Letts.
Yeah.
So when this sketch was actually done, I don't know. There's a little, if you just see in pencil, just to the right there, there's the helmet.
Yeah. I'm guessing that wasn't original from 1974, but I don't know. Could it be?
Yeah, it looks like it to me. Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful, that.
It is.
Let's have a look back in the chat and see whose side they're on. Vanessa Law says it doesn't look new enough.
It's true.
Okay.
One
Absolutely true. Yep.
Babette Bombshell says, I like that they look like a credible threat once more. That's something I'm hearing a lot, Simon, that people feel that they aren't cute little characters, that they look like formidable warriors.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Problem being, puts it out there that there are women in those costumes.
Well, we knew that last year, didn't we?
Well, do we know?
We
do
did
we
see
know
that.
this yet? Do we
Oh,
know?
Yeah,
well,
we talked about it last year.
No, I don't. But we did see that location footage last year. And given the fact that this title, and this is something I wanted to talk about before the episode goes out, given the fact we've got this title, War of the Sontarans, I'm going to put it out there now. Even though this episode is set in the Crimean War, I believe that we're going to see a civil war between the Sontarans. Between... Obviously, they're supposed to be a clone race.
No.
I believe that yet again, Chris Chibnall has been ripping off the Orville, and we're going to have a war between male Sontarans and female Sontarans. That's Hadley's tip for the next total train wreck coming to you, to your televisions this Sunday, courtesy of Mr. Chris Chibnall, the world's worst showrunner. Should you happen to accidentally get your TV sort of jammed, can't get that button key, get it off channel 1, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, I pray you're wrong, Dan Hadley.
That's my prediction. I've just got a feeling. I've got a feeling.
But I don't care.
Says, can we have a Sontaran civil war, Ian, and a special weapons Sontaran? Thank you, please.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like that idea.
You might find, Dan, that you might find, Dan, that you're very right, and that the Sontaran civil war between male and females explains their origins of why they became an all-male clone race, and that they were actually responsible for starting the Crimean War.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, the males are going to lose.
No, well, if it's back in their history, they wouldn't have done. Because how did the Sontarans end up in the Crimean War?
No, but this is New Who. So the males are going to lose. They're going to lose. So there you go.
Well, I don't care because I will be watching it.
I won't be watching it. I don't care.
Kelly in the chat says, on one hand, I like that they're trying to make Sontarans look more like they did back then. Yeah. But they do look weird.
They do look weird.
The people who are on board kind of feel the same way that you do. And Vanessa says, I have to say, the original costumes are the best.
They are. So just go back to them. Just go back to them.
Locating weapons, says Darren Bradley. And it sounds like a must-see on Sunday, as Stevenson. The design department. I mean, I really like what they did with the Cybermen in the last series until they did something unspeakable to them and the Time Lords together. And although I am watching the current series of Doctor Who, I'm not watching it on the night of transmission. I'll get back to you with what I think of them on screen at a later date when we come to reviewing War of the Sontarans on Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast. But I've liked having this deep dive with the Sontarans. They're Neil Cole, a friend at Neil Cole at the Museum of Classic Sci-Fi. He always describes them as the school bullies, the bully boys of the Doctor Who universe. And I know exactly what he's saying. He always says that they're the ones that have nicked your dinner money. They're that kind of bad guy. He's probably right. I think the last thing that we'll part on is this new bit of Sontaran merch that has just come out. Sontaran posters there. At least those feature. I'm not sure what gun he's holding, but I think
he's holding a camera. Super 8 camera. That's what it looks like.
Looks a lot like Links to Me.
He's holding that. JT,
everybody who's been watching in the chat. I think that does. Should we have one pretty picture? Should we wrap up with one?
We're way over time. It's past my bedtime.
This is the longest stream I think
Charlotte will be fast
done.
asleep by now.
But I wanted to share this because I think that I think it's absolutely beautiful. And this artist's work, I think it was up a few weeks ago. So this is the latest work from Oliver Arkenstall-Jones.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oldie worldy movie poster for the Peter Capaldi story from 2014.
Love that
the
episode.
Orient Express, which I adore it. You adore it, Ian.
Yeah.
And it has got that sort of high fantasy mixed with
mystery,
Amicus. It's that kind of film from the late 60s.
Yeah. It is Amicus. You're absolutely spot on. That's exactly what it is. It's like Horror Express or something like that, isn't it? Yeah, I love this. I love this guy's artwork. They just he's done so many brilliant pictures. This is the
episode that made me connect to Peter.
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't think much of him, and then I saw this one and I connected with him.
This is the one where the layers started to appeal, I think, and it being obviously it's hardly hiding its homage there, and it's probably why Oliver saw it as such ripe ground to go to create another poster. He's done the Robots of Death, the Visitation, stories like that, hasn't he, JT? I think we've sort of salivated over these time after time after time, haven't we?
Yeah, and you can actually get them from his website. I've got a couple in a tube over there.
Oh, can you really? I think it's time. Yeah, I'll reach in. I'll get his website up. I'll put it in the description of this video. And yeah, I think I'll go and have a browse myself and see if I can get a poster to put on these walls behind me for when I finish off the studio here. It's all
lovely.
been done out because I really do love this artist's work. I think there's something classical but very, very new about it. And yeah, he just hits it bang on. So well done again there, Oliver. And thank you to everybody who's stuck with us the entire show. Lots and lots of comments. That's what we like to see. And lots of likes too. But yeah, just before you go, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share the video along to the Doctor Who fans in your life. Subscribe to the channel and hit the little cloister bell so you don't miss the next time that we go live. And don't miss our podcast that drops tomorrow, our interview with Paul Joyce, I think you could say the unique original director Paul Joyce, talking extensively not only about his amazing career but about the troubled production behind Warriors Gate, that classic from 1980. Don't miss it. One last look and see what everybody's saying. Great stream panel. Love the comments in the chat too. Thanks for being here, Alison. Always good to see you. Big hugs to all from our new friend Babette Bombshell here. Great show, guys, says the problem being crippling to blue and asks, where's Rosie? She's behind the arm of my mic. You just can't see her. She's back there. She'll be back up here with me again at some point in the future, I dare say. Babette Horror says, I love more gothic horror in Doctor Who.
Yes, Babette.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
And best story.
Well, we got it, haven't we, with Jodie? That's a horror thing, isn't it?
A different kind of horror.
Quite what I had in mind.
Thank you, everybody who's watching the chat this whole time. And yeah, please subscribe if you haven't already and share us along. Good night all, says Who Fan Dan. Good night, everybody in the chat. And good night to you, gentlemen. This has been our longest ever stream by about 3 minutes now. Thanks for staying up with us. I've got to get myself together and remember to hit these buttons in the right order. Thanks, everybody. Back here for more Type 40 tomorrow with our interview with Paul Joyce. More Type 40 live next Thursday here on the Spacebook channel. Don't miss that. Thank you for your time, everybody. Good night. Stay safe. Bye-bye. This is where I hit this.
The end button.